Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about What If Naruto x Starfire Justice League Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The steep, rocky mountains that pierce the sky like the blade of a sword, the waterfall of oil, and the tens of gigantic toad statues surrounding it made for a fantastical view. It was one of the most mysterious places in the ninja world, one of the big three unexplored sage regions, a place that extremely few humans had ever set foot in, Mount Myoboku. Currently, a 16-year-old boy with tan skin and blonde hair was precariously balancing himself while sitting cross-legged on a square stone slate at the very peak of one of those blade-like mountains. For a few seconds he seemed to be doing an okay job, but when a small gust of wind blew, it made him start flailing his arms in panic. "Gaia!" he screamed as he fell into the forest of spear-like rock formations below. Fortunately, a long toad tongue suddenly wrapped around his waist and saved him from the potentially deadly fall. "Maybe we should take a break, Naruto-chan? As your concentration drops, the period of time you're able to sit still seems to decrease as well," Fukasaku, the elder toad, said as he pulled back his tongue, bringing the boy back to the top of the mountain. "I can keep going," Naruto said, undaunted. The old toad blew out a sigh. "That may be the case for you, but I'm getting weary myself. Let's go have one of Ma's snacks while we catch our breaths. What do you say?" "No. Anything but that," Naruto refused vehemently. "I'll just go have some cold water." "Right, I will make my shadow clones train while you're resting. You won't have to save them from falling when they lose their balance." The thought of being forced to eat worms and bugs again filled him with revulsion. While the elder toad went to rest in the shade, Naruto made 4 clones and ordered them to start training. In the meantime, he started thinking about what the elder toad had told him before. "Practically speaking, in terms of your training, you need to sit still." "Huh?" Naruto was bewildered. "When you cease your flow of animal instincts and harmonize with the flow of nature, you will be able to sense nature energy," the elder toad explained, but that sounded like a foreign language to his ears. "So I just have to sit still? That seems easy enough," is what he had said before he started training and got to experience just how difficult a task that was. As a powerful shinobi, Naruto had a very good mastery of his body's movements. Even his chakra control was elite nowadays, after the grueling training that he had gone through during the creation of Raisin Shuriken. However, sitting still without moving at all was proving to be more difficult than he had expected. But in hindsight, he should have seen it coming. Sitting still was almost like a form of torture for someone who was as hyperactive and easily distracted as him. Hours passed as nearly 100 of Naruto's shadow clones fell to their deaths into the rocky forest below. Naruto himself also had to be rescued by the elder toad more than 24 times after losing his balance and falling off his slate. "It's time to wrap it up for today," the elder toad said. "I'm not done yet," Naruto said stubbornly, but he let out a yelp of pain when the elder toad whacked him on the back with his black stick. "Look at the sky, it's dusk already." "No, it's night. I told you that this training wouldn't be finished in a day or 2. Do you think becoming a sage is that easy? There aren't even 5 humans who have managed to become sages in the last 1,000 years. So let's head back. Eat something, wash yourself, and get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start again." Naruto was about to say something in retort, but when the elder toad slightly raised his stick and narrowed his eyes at him, he wisely decided to keep his mouth shut. He followed the elder obediently. The two of them almost arrived home when a large orange toad, Gamakichi, leapt towards them in a rush and shouted, "Fukasaku-sama! Bad news! Konoha is under attack." "What? What happened? Don't tell me, did the Akatsuki attack the village? Did they finally come after me?" Naruto shouted. "No, it's someone else. Something else." Kosuke said he had never seen anything like it. Kosuke was the toad summon delegated to Konoha. His role was to reverse summon Naruto back to the village in case of an emergency while he was training. Naruto and the elder toad had spent the entire day training, but the moment they heard that Konoha was under attack, all thoughts of rest disappeared from their minds. "Send him a message to summon us to Konoha immediately." "No, tell him to summon you first so that you can summon all of us," Fukasaku said. Kosuke was a small toad. He didn't have enough chakra to summon all the warriors of the Toad clan. "Katon, great fireball." A large fireball came from the mouth of a Konoha Chunin, blowing up a gigantic vehicle of steel. "Mom! Dad! Someone, please help me, Arf!" A young, civilian child cried out before his body was torn apart by a winged, demonic creature. Gutsuga! A shout was heard, and that demonic creature, along with 6 others of its kind that were nearby, were turned into red mist as a member of the Inuzuka clan and his Niken partner attacked, transforming themselves into giant drills. Doton, Doriahiki! A genin cried out, and a mud wall rose in front of him. Alas, it had been in vain. The earth wall technique was vaporized when a flying warship fired its double-barreled laser cannon at him. There wasn't even a speck of dust left from that unfortunate shinobi. It was chaos. It was pandemonium. The sky was filled with hundreds of alien warships and countless flying, armored demons. The ground was ravaged, with the remains of demolished buildings and the corpses of villagers and shinobi strewn all over the place. The entire village was burning. Momentarily, Naruto was in a stupor. Gamakichi had told them that the village was under attack, but he had never expected such an amount of death and destruction. It was several times worse than 3 years ago when Orochimaru, Sunigekure, and Otogekure invaded Konoha. Outside of his own volition, his eyes became blood-red and slit, just like those of a fox. A cloak of red chakra covered his body, its corrosive nature slowly starting to melt his skin away. But he couldn't bring himself to care about the pain. His voice was much darker and rougher when he wove the signs for one of his most used techniques and shouted, Tajo Kage Bunshin no Justu. Oh, great dark side. The barbarians are putting up a much fiercer resistance than we thought, a gray-skinned, humanoid being, male by the looks of it, said in a servile voice. His skinny physique and hunchback posture made one think of a weasel. The one in question, Darkside, was an extremely tall and muscular man, easily around 10 feet tall. His cracked-looking gray skin and completely red eyes betrayed the fact that he was not human. Darkside narrowed his eyes as he watched the large screens streaming the battle happening below. Steppenwolf, the general of his army, had been the one to discover this previously thought uninhabited solar system. It was a solar system outside the 36 sectors of the known universe, outside the Guardians of Oi's jurisdiction. In it, there was a green planet, full of life. Steppenwolf named it Ballarat. 1. Upon scouting the largest nations of the planet, their infrastructure, and their level of technology, Darkseid was led to believe that his army of parademons would pillage and conquer this world within 3 days. He never expected the current scenario. What is the meaning of this, Desad? Darkseid asked, his voice almost like a growl. You told me that the planet has no defenses. You told me that they were primitive, and that they would be conquered in a matter of days. He could see on the screens showing the battle that even their children were stronger and faster than his own carefully bred parademons. Boys and girls no older than 15 were tearing through the parademons. As for the grown-up warriors and metahumans, moving at speeds bordering or even surpassing the speed of sound, the grown-up ninja were like wolves in a flock of sheep. The only reason why his army was still holding its ground was due to its large numbers and superior technology, warships, tanks, and other high-tech war machines that were capable of large-scale destruction. Desad was quick to throw himself on his knees when Darkseid's eyes started burning. My lord, the data of our scouts wasn't wrong. We just never knew that their metahumans would be so powerful, or in such great numbers. He cried out. Even the Earth, the planet holding the anti-life equation, did not have such a great number of metahumans despite its 7 billion population. Yet in this world, Ballarat, merely one nation, had over 7,000 metahumans, some of them strong enough to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Superman and Wonder Woman. The servile man trembled in terror when Darkseid abruptly stood up from his throne. However, to his great relief, it seemed like his master didn't stand up in order to kill him. No, he was staring at the screens in front of him, his eyes wide with surprise. Raising his head, Desad adopted a similar expression when he saw a large spot of red and orange suddenly appearing below, and their radars showing the appearance of 5,000 new metahuman enemies. It was a blonde-haired teenager, a boy with fox-like eyes and covered by a cloak of crimson-red energy. All those 5,000 new metahumans on their radars were his shadow clones. They weren't mere illusions. They were real. The swirling orbs of energy in their hands were obliterating apocalypse tanks and heavy artillery, and all the parademons that got in their way were turned into nothing but smears of blood and gore on the ground. Desad, order the armada to open fire and carpet bomb the ground indiscriminately. But master, we've deployed over 100,000 parademons, and Steppenwolf, Mantis, and Kalibak are also there. If we open fire, all our troops will be lost too. Desad spoke up quickly. Send orders for the new gods to retreat through a boom tube. As for the parademons, they don't matter. We'll make a newer, stronger breed of parademons from the metahumans native to his planet, As nightfall came, the battle on the ground only increased in intensity and viciousness. Many of the civilians in the village who had been unable to evacuate in time had been killed by the Apocalypse Army's artillery, but the shinobi and the kunoichi were more than a match for the parademons. Furthermore, with the addition of Naruto and his 5,000 shadow clones and that of the gigantic toad ninja from Mount Myaboku, Konoha was starting to push back the alien invaders. But that's when it happened. The night sky was lit up by hundreds of bright beams of light as Darkseid's armada opened fire. Due to the numerous clones protecting him, Naruto managed to survive the vicious airstrike. But that could not be said about the rest. Shinobi and kunoichi died by the hundreds. Not even Tsunade's slug summons had been capable of saving them, for they were also annihilated. Kanohigaku no Sato was unrecognizable. Although most of the army of parademons had been decimated in the airstrike as well, the civilian population that had not been able to evacuate in time had been massacred in its entirety. Not even one building was still standing, and the Hokage monument had been gouged and melted down by the laser cannons too. Naruto stared at the desolate scenery vacantly, momentarily unable to come to terms with reality. He was in shock. Less than an hour ago, he had been training with the Elder Toad in the lush and peaceful lands of Mount Myaboku, but now he was in the middle of a war of extinction. Father! Father! Naruto vaguely heard Gamakichi's bitter cries. His hearing was muffled as if he were underwater. Turning towards the sound, Naruto saw Gamakichi, his best friend among the toads, bawling over the gigantic corpse of Gamabunta, who no longer had a head. The toad boss had shielded his son with his own body, sacrificing his life to protect him. Not far, a few dozen meters to the right, he recognized the furry white silhouette of Akamaru. The poor dog was whining and crying while he was shaking an unresponsive Kiba with his paws as if he were trying to wake him up. But the boy was not going to wake up. He was dead, half of his torso missing. There wasn't even any blood. The intense heat of the laser beam that nailed him had cauterized the wound, leaving a grotesque corpse behind. Thousands of bodies, some buried by rubble, others left smoking and burning, littered the ground. Blood rushed to his head as he took in the atrocities of war, the massacre that had just happened under his very eyes. At that moment, a white portal was opened in the middle of the ruined village, and 4 alien beings stepped out of it. They were Darkseid, Steppenwolf, Calabac, and Mantis, the new gods from Apocalypse. Darkseid flew up slowly with his hands behind his back, smiling as he looked at the carnage below his feet. But his smile froze when a pillar of vile, crimson energy split the skies and a bestial roar shook up the world, drowning out all the other sounds coming from the hundreds of warships flying above the village. "Father, watch out!" Calabac shouted. Not having expected to suddenly be attacked, Darkseid was caught off guard. However, at the very last moment, Steppenwolf threw himself in front of Darkseid, shielding him with his body. The new god howled in agony as a crimson-red claw tore through his arm, ripping it savagely from the shoulder. And he would have lost his head next to if not for Calabac, who raised his club and swung it wildly at the creature that had attacked them, smashing it back like a cannonball. It was then that they finally got to see their assailant in full. It was a demonic-looking creature, a crimson-red human-fox hybrid with 5 tails. It looked like nothing they had ever seen. "Fascinating," Darkseid spoke. "Is this an ability from your metagene? Or is it some sort of magic?" It was as if Steppenwolf losing his arm for the sake of protecting him had not even registered on his radar. Naruto was too far gone to reply. He wasn't even conscious anymore, Kyuubi's rage having taken over him. He let out another bestial roar as he charged at Darkseid, his demeanor no different than that of a beast, growling and running on all 4s as he attacked wildly. But just as the cubified Naruto lunged at Darkseid to claw his head off, Darkseid's eyes burnt, and his Omega beams burst forth, blasting him at full force. The berserk Naruto roared in anguish as the Omega beams even started melting off his version 2 Bijou cloak. He brought his 5 tails in front of himself, using them as a shield to mitigate the damage the Omega beams were dealing to him, and suddenly buried his hands into the ground. Darkseid was caught off guard once again as Naruto's impossibly long arms broke out of the ground, punching him violently into the chin and sending him flying and rolling over the ground like a skipping stone. "You dare strike me?" Darkseid shouted in anger when he finally stopped his momentum and got up to his feet. The ground underneath his feet caved in as he jumped towards the 5-tailed fox and punched with his entire strength. The cubified Naruto met his attack with a punch of his own, their fists clashing against each other. A shockwave burst from the impact of their fists, but Naruto was blasted off violently, flying over 300 meters before smashing into the ruined Hokage monument, leaving a deep, 5-tailed fox imprint in it. For a moment, It was quiet, and Steppenwolf and Kalibak were tempted to think that the demonic metahuman was finally down for the count. But Darkseid narrowed his eyes. Mantis, go ahead and make sure that he's out. But don't kill him. Only incapacitate him, Darkseid ordered. Yes, Master, the green-armored new god said obediently. Yellow bolts of lightning appeared in his hands as he began walking towards the ruined cliffside. However, just as he arrived in front of the remains of the Hokage monument, deep cracks started appearing all across the mountainside. The entire mountain on which the Hokage monument had been carved collapsed, raising a huge cloud of dirt and dust in the air. Mantis was a new god from Apocalypse. He was a conqueror. He had subjugated numerous planets under Darkseid's orders, and countless kings had kneeled in front of him. However, at that moment, a feeling of deep terror washed over Mantis, a fear like he had never felt in his entire life. A roar like that of a primordial beast rang, blowing away the dust and dirt that had been raised for over 1 kilometer in the air. Mantis was frozen in terror, unable to move as the creature swiped its enormous claws, tearing through his body like a hot knife through butter. Not for the first time that day, Darkseid was startled. Caliban and Steppenwolf looked in shock at the mutilated corpse of their former comrade. In front of them stood a gargantuan creature, over 40 meters tall, its enormous 9 tails even bigger than its already massive body. It was the strongest of all tailed beasts, the 9-tailed demon fox. At last! I am free! When Kyuubi said those words and turned his bloodthirsty eyes towards them, Darkseid screamed. Desaad! Order the armada to fire! It was as if all the pilots had been waiting with their thumbs on the fire buttons because, not even a second after Darkseid's words ended, the hundreds of warships above the village aimed their double-barreled cannons at Kyuubi and fired. The armada that had easily obliterated the entirety of Konoha was now focusing its entire firepower on one single spot, on Kyuubi. With his enormous size, it was impossible for them to miss him. Kyuubi roared in rage and pain as the laser beams bore into his flesh, leaving deep, burning wounds all over his body. The fox tried to break into a run towards Darkseid, but another massive hail of laser beams bombed him from above, forcing him to turtle up behind his large tails and making him unable to even take a step forward. While the hundreds of Apocalypse warships were raining death upon Kyuubi from above, nobody took note of the green-clad human male who dug his way up out of the rubble. They did not notice the way he formed an X with his arms in front of him, and the deafening sounds coming from the laser beams exploding against Kyuubi drowned out the sound of his voice when he yelled. Hashiman, the Gate of Joy. A dense aura of green light burst from his body, and his skin turned an angry shade of red as he opened the 6th of the 8 inner gates. Asa Kujaku! Might Guy screamed. The aliens finally took note of his presence only when the sky was filled with dozens upon dozens of fireballs. The night sky was illuminated by extremely bright flashes of light as the fireballs generated by Might Guy's inhumanly fast punches smashed into the numerous warships flying above the village, blowing them all to smithereens. Despite the fact that his warships were being annihilated at a crazy pace by the emergence of Might Guy, Darkseid did not order them to retreat. Continue firing at that beast. Do not weaken your assault, or I'll give you all a fate even worse than death, he threatened. Turning to look at the 2 subordinates next to him, Darkseid ordered. Steppenwolf, Kalibak, go and kill that metahuman for me. The hundreds of double-barreled cannons firing upon Kyuubi for several minutes had been too much for him in the end. The laser beams moved at the speed of light, and they were powerful enough to even melt rocks. Kyuubi may have been the strongest beast in the world, but he was not invincible. He was too large to dodge the hundreds of light-speed laser attacks, and his defense was not impenetrable either. By the time Might Guy dug his way out of the rubble and started destroying the alien warships, Kyuubi had already reached his limits. Despite the fact that Naruto had ripped open the seal and set him free, Kyuubi willingly went back inside his body, choosing to retreat rather than perish. He left it all in the hands of Might Guy because he knew just how powerful the users of 8 inner gates were. After all, the seal was gone now. He could leave Naruto's body any time he wished later on. Darkseid didn't let it show on his face, but inwardly, he was relieved to see that crimson-red behemoth disappear in a shower of lights, slowly seeping back into the body of the human boy. With the massive demonic being out of the way, Darkseid turned his attention to the powerful metahuman who had annihilated nearly a third of his warships in less than 2 minutes. The god of evil lost count of how many times he was surprised that day. Not even half a minute passed since he had ordered Kalibak and Steppenwolf to kill the newly arrived metahuman, but the 2 of them were already lying unconscious at the feet of the human. Darkseid's eyes paused for a moment on the unmoving body of Kalibak, his firstborn son. He was lying in a pool of blood, with a hole as big as his head in his torso. He was dead. The rising and lowering of Steppenwolf's chest were a sign that he was still breathing, if barely. "Are you angry at the deaths of your subordinates?" Might Guy asked as he walked towards Darkseid, his body emitting a dense blue aura now, different from when he had cast the Morning Peacock technique. "That's nothing compared to the rage burning in my soul now." He couldn't tell how many people were still alive, buried underneath the rubble of the ruined village, but it didn't take a genius to understand that roughly 90% of the village had been massacred by the air strike of the alien warships. There was no joviality on his face anymore. No more boasting about being Konoha's noble green beast. No more talk about youth. There was only rage. Only vengeance. "The weak die, the strong live. Weaklings have no place at my side," Darkseid said indifferently. "But you are strong. I could use someone like you. Join me, mortal. Become my knight, my champion, and you will get to keep your life and the lives of your fellow humans on this planet too." If Might Guy was surprised by the fact that the alien understood his words and even spoke to him in the common language of the elemental nations, he showed no sign of it. "Join you? After everything you've done?" Might Guy said. "You killed my comrades. You destroyed my village. And you murdered my pupil, the one I cared for like a son. Are you asking me to join you?" By the end of it, his voice degenerated into an outright scream, a roar filled with rage and anguish. "You won't leave this place alive, monster. I will stake my life on it." Might Guy got in a crouching position as he said, "My life for yours." Hashiman, the gate of death. Red vapor came off his body and snuffed out the blue aura from before. Darkseid didn't even react before a powerful punch landed on his face, shattering his jawbone and hurling him back violently for several hundred meters, all the way to the outskirts of the now ruined village. The hundreds of warships flying above the village all started firing their laser cannons at Might Guy, but in his gate of death, he was incomparably faster than QB. None of the laser beams met their marks. Space itself seemed to bend around him as he ran, seemingly breaking the laws of physics. Might Guy appeared to have gained the ability to fly as he started kicking the air, sending himself upwards. "First step," he shouted. The wind pressure generated by his punch instantly obliterated 12 warships. Second step. More than 20 blinding explosions lit up the night sky like miniature suns. Third step. Fourth step. Fifth step. In the blink of an eye, the night seemed to turn into day from the hundreds of powerful explosions as Might Guy single-handedly annihilated Apocalypse's entire armada. Darkseid's armada, the hundreds of warships that had struck fear and terror into dozens of galaxies, were all annihilated by a single man in the span of a few breaths. By the time Might Guy finished destroying all the warships, he was gasping for air, seemingly not far from reaching his limits. It was while he was catching his breath that 4 crimson rays of light were fired at him. They were Darkseid's Omega beams. Confident in the godlike speed that he gained by opening the gate of death, Might Guy wasn't worried and easily dodged the 4 crimson rays of light. Or so it had seemed at first. He was startled to realize that the Omega beams did a 180-degree turn, coming back at him again. They were homing in on him. He dodged the Omega beams one more time, but the beams once again followed him closely, not letting him escape. Left with no other choice, Might Guy plunged down and used his great strength to bury himself into the ground like a mole, collapsing the dirt and soil after him, thus making the Omega beams finally lose their target and explode. Might Guy quickly burst out of the ground, rushing back to the surface. Once he opened the gate of death, his life became like a dying candle. Even if he stood still, without moving a muscle, he only had a few minutes left to live. He didn't want his sacrifice to be in vain. He didn't want the destruction of his homeland and the deaths of his comrades and that of his beloved pupil to go unavenged. He had to kill the alien invader no matter what. Alas, when Might Guy came back to the surface, it was just in time to see Darkseid's silhouette disappearing into a circular gateway of light. A deafening cry, a shout filled with rage, erupted from his chest. An aura of crimson light stronger than ever before burst out from him, and the skin all over his body cracked as his chakra took on the shape of a large dragon head around him. Space seemed to bend around his body once more as he rushed towards the portal, delivering the most powerful technique of the Gate of Death. Night Guy. But the fates often laughed at the expense of mortals. The fearsome attack that Might Guy had literally poured the last of his lifespan into arrived a split second too late. The gateway of light shrunk and vanished a mere instant before he got to it. His Night Guy ended up hitting nothing but empty air. The pressure coming from his attack left a deep and long gorge in the village and extended out of it, into the forest, leveling all the trees in its way. His entire body cracked and charred, Might Guy collapsed to the ground, devoid of energy and filled with despair. He didn't know that a sliver of his attack did slip into the portal and grievously injured Darkseid's retreating form. He didn't notice the fact that Uzumaki Naruto's body was nowhere to be seen either. Moments before his death, the only thing on Might Guy's mind was that he had failed to protect his home. That he had failed to avenge his fallen comrades. Soon, the red, burning cracks running across his charred skin dimmed, and all the chakra vanished from his body. Might Guy, the most powerful Jonin of Konohagakure, breathed his last. 10,000 parademons were lined up orderly into groups of 1,000, with 5 groups in each row, as they listened to the last-moment instructions from their commander. Though his face could not be seen due to the black helmet with red accents covering his head, it could be discerned that the commander was different from the parademons. For one, he did not have wings like them. Clad in black high-tech apocalyptian armor, his physique and appearance would tempt one to believe that he was a member of the race of new gods from Apocalypse. 2 other beings stood respectfully behind the commander. One of them looked like a regular, faceless, gray robot, not even wearing clothes. As for the other, he was a 7-foot-tall man, his body packed with muscles. Unlike the robot next to him, the man wore ornate apocalyptian armor and held a long and powerful-looking spear in his hand. In a tall, nearby tower, Darkseid stood with his hands behind his back, watching the well-organized army below with a satisfied look on his face. He turned into a fine weapon, my lord, a hunchback man wearing a hooded robe said. Indeed. The deaths of Steppenwolf, Calibac, and Mantis were a severe loss to our forces, but he more than made up for their absence. Oh, great Darkseid, if I may speak freely, Desaad trailed off hesitantly. What is it? Speak. Uzumaki Naruto has proven to be a formidable warrior, invincible on the battlefield. Over the last 2 years, he has conquered many worlds in your great name. However, he still questions your orders. He still doesn't blindly follow your will. Darkseid narrowed his eyes at Desaad, but he did not rebuke him. Desaad was right. Uzumaki Naruto did conquer many worlds in Darkseid's name, but all the planets he invaded were either torn by war and strife or the beings inhabiting them were vile and malevolent. The young man often questioned his orders and refused to attack those planets that did not require pacifying. After all, he had been taught that Darkseid's goal was to bring peace and order to the universe, not disaster and ruin. The world is mine to conquer. Sooner or later, all will kneel before me, said Darkseid, his red eyes burning with his omega beams. I will allow him to play the role of a hero and a liberator for now. But Granny Goodness has assured me that she is getting close to finding a way to remove the demon from his body. Once that fox demon is gone, there will be nothing to stop Naruto's complete brainwashing. I will have absolute control over him. When the time comes, I will use him to ravage those who dared to strike me. I will start with his own home planet, Ballarat. I will make him destroy his homeworld with his own 2 hands. Then the earth will fall into ruin too. I will leave New Genesis for the last so that I can fully savor it. 2. Unaware of what Darkseid and Desaad were talking about him behind his back, Naruto pressed the main button of his mother box, and a large wormhole opened in front of him, large enough to allow the entire Apocalyptian army to pass through. He walked at the front of his army, with Devi Lance, the spear wielder, and Dr. Bedlam, the robotic-looking being, following closely behind him. After they stepped into the boom tube, the thousands of parademons flapped their wings and quickly flew after them like a swarm of giant locusts. Despite being located in the heart of the interplanetary empire known as the Citadel, the planet Ractor retained its autonomy. The Citadel did not involve itself in the affairs of the planet. In fact, that planet had a special status not only in the Vega system, but even in the eyes of the Guardians of the Universe. The famed intergalactic police force, the Green Lantern Corps, was prohibited from operating within the Vega system exactly because of the beings living on planet Racta, the Psions. 1. This state of affairs led to the Citadel Empire expanding and conquering many of the planets in the large Vega system with no real opposition. However, through it all, the Citadel never touched Racta, the Psion's homeworld. Not only was the Psion's existence a guarantee that the Green Lantern would never set foot in the Vega system or interfere in its affairs, but the Psions were also allies whose advanced technology and groundbreaking research on genetics had proved to be invaluable with the passing of centuries for the Empire. That being said, the Psions had free rein to do whatever they pleased within the Vega system. They were untouchable. Or so they used to think, until an enormous boom tube opened in the sky above the planet's capital city. In mere moments, dozens of warships and thousands of parademons darkened the sky. Deafening sirens rang, and a dome-like energy shield rose from the ground, encapsulating the entirety of the capital city within. However, neither the parademons nor the pilots of the warships made any moves. After spending 2 years under Naruto's command, they knew not to take any action, no matter how small, without his explicit orders. A warship's trapdoor opened, and Naruto jumped down, letting himself fall from a height of over 800 meters. Inside the energy dome, short and scrawny green-skinned people who looked like humanoid reptiles glared at the cloud of dust that he made when he landed on the ground. The Psion's yellow eyes widened to impossible proportions when he stepped out of the cloud of dust, and they saw the large, bright red Omega symbol on his chest. "The Liberator!" they cried out. Despite the good connotation that a name like the Liberator was supposed to have, the Psion's voices were filled with fear. No fewer than 49 planets were invaded and conquered by Darkseid's right hand, Uzumaki Naruto. The world at large did not know what he looked like underneath that black and red helmet, but his black apocalyptian armor and the large Omega symbol drawn on his chest were unmistakable. It took only 2 years for his infamy to spread to the very corners of the known universe. "I come in the name of the great Darkseid to give you an ultimatum: bow down and accept his rule or fight back and be exterminated," said Naruto, his words coming out in the Psion's native language thanks to the mother box translating everything he said. "Go back to where you came from, butcher. The Psions will never bow down to Darkseid," the Psion in charge shouted. Never taking his eyes away from the Psions, Naruto spoke to the rest of his troops. "I will destroy their energy shield. Parademons, stand back for now. Destroyers, be ready to open fire on my signal." Although Naruto had spoken in the apocalyptian language and stopped his mother box from relaying his words to the enemy, the Psions had their own translation devices too. They understood his words. "Even if your entire armada were to attack our energy shield for 2 days straight, they would still not be able to deplete it. Yet you're saying you are going to destroy it all by yourself?" One of the Psions mocked him. "You are delusional. You have no idea who you're messing with. The Citadel's army will be here any moment now. So go ahead and give it your best shot. Make it count, since it will be the last thing you do. A miserable fate awaits you." But Naruto didn't trade barbs with them. The time for talks and negotiations had passed. Starting with the symbol for hare and ending with the symbol for snake, he formed 6 hand seals in extremely quick succession before placing his hands on the ground and using a huge chunk of his vast reserves of chakra to cast an earth release technique. "Doton, great moving earth core." His words were in a language that the Psion's translation devices did not recognize and could not translate, but the Psions could not bring themselves to care about it because, in the next moment, a terrible earthquake ruptured the ground and screams of shock and panic erupted from millions of people as enormous walls, hundreds of meters in height, suddenly rose from the earth around the capital city, lifting the ground on which the pillars generating the energy shield were located. As the ground around the city rose high up in the sky, the pillars were disconnected from the network supplying them with power, and the energy shield disappeared into thin air. Now, the capital city was surrounded by mountains from all sides, looking as if it were located at the bottom of a giant cauldron. There was no escape for them. "Destroyers, open fire!" Naruto shouted, and the double-barreled particle cannons of the nearly 100 warships flying above the capital city all lit up at once. The Armada's cataclysmic attack leveled most of the buildings in the Psion's capital city and wrecked all their anti-aircraft weaponry. "Destroyers, stand back. Parademons, attack! Take no survivors! Kill them all! For Darkseid!" Bone-chilling roars filled with bloodlust came from the 10,000 parademons as they plunged down, throwing themselves at the still-living Psions below. A terrible massacre ensued. It took less than a day for the Apocalyptian army to annihilate all the military on the Rakta planet. In the first place, despite being one of the oldest races in the universe, the Psions weren't numerous, and the vast majority of them were not adept at combat. They were scientists, not soldiers. The Citadel Empire's protection had made them lax. Other than a relatively small number of Branks warriors and the Psion's own army of droids, there were no other lines of defense. The Branks warriors were famed for their strength in the Vega system, but they were, in the end, overwhelmed by Devilance and the rest of the parademons. As for the Psion's androids, that was where Dr. Bedlam came in. His ability as a being of energy to possess robots proved to be the bane of their existence. Naruto cruelly stepped on the head of a Psion who was trying to crawl away from him, desperate to survive. "Can't wait to get home and see what father's reward will be this time around," he thought in a good mood. Nothing quite like being praised after massacring an entire race, huh? Kyubi said snidely, his demonic voice immediately making Naruto's high spirits plummet. But he chose to ignore the fox demon's jibe and shot a fire technique in the air, signaling the end of all hostilities. The Psions are dead. The war is over. We have liberated the planet. The parademons cheered in unison at his words. Don't start celebrating too soon. We are not done just yet. Gather up all the people who are trapped in their underground prisons and labs. Only after we've sent everyone away to safety will I allow you to feast on the fruits of your victory. This is the 50th world I have pacified. One more planet conquered. One step closer to peace, Naruto thought as he watched a large number of people from all sorts of races make a long queue in front of a boom tube. The Psions had been famous all over the universe for their unscrupulous genetic experiments. With the Gordanians acting as their limbs, the Psions kidnapped people of all races from all over the Milky Way galaxy, performing all sorts of vile and cruel experiments on them for the sake of deepening their understanding of genetics and advancing their research. Peace? Do you really think that Darkseid's goal is to bring peace to the world? Kyubi scoffed. Have you nothing better to do? Stop bothering me, Naruto snarked back at him. I'm telling you that Darkseid is lying to you, you stupid brat. You're nothing but a weapon to him, the fox growled. Yeah, because I'm going to believe the words of a fucking demon instead of the words of my father, Naruto shot back in distaste. I gave you my negative emotion sensing. How is it not obvious to you that you are only a tool to them? Kyubi shouted in exasperation. Because it's an ability coming from you, the demon who murdered my parents. You expect me to trust you? You think I'm retarded? While Naruto was having a heated mental argument with the demon fox in his gut, Dr. Bedlam came to him and said, Commander, I'm afraid we don't have the leisure to help these insects. The Citadel Empire's army is surely on its way as we speak. The Citadel does not possess the technology to warp its armada, but this planet is located in the heart of the Empire. They could be here any moment now. Naruto momentarily paused his argument with the fox to reply to him. If we don't evacuate these people somewhere safe, the Citadel and the Gordanians will just enslave them again. All the blood we've shed today will have been for nothing. If not for the fact that the android he was possessing at that moment was incapable of changing its facial expression, Dr. Bedlam would have had a deep scowl on his face. Nevertheless, Naruto could feel his inner frustration and disgust through his negative emotion sensing. Look at him. These are the people that you say that love you? If you were weaker than him, he would have struck you down right where you stand, Kyubi said. When will you open your eyes to the truth? Shut the hell up, demon, Naruto shot back irately. For all I know, you're just using this so-called negative emotion sensing to manipulate me. Surely our forces are far more important than these people, Dr. Bedlam said, putting as much disgust in his voice when he pronounced the word people. Whether these bugs live or die, who care? Dr. Bedlam couldn't finish his words because a vicious backhand caught him straight in the face, hurling him back violently into a nearby building, leaving a human-shaped hole in its walls. His growing irritation at Kyubi's incessant instigations in his mind and the way that Dr. Bedlam was talking about other people as if they were insects made Naruto unable to hold in his anger, and he lashed out violently. But neither Deviolance nor the rest of the parademons showed any reaction to his brutal outburst. After all, they were all from Apocalypse. That was exactly how things ran there. The strong ruled over the weak with an iron fist. Might makes right was one of Apocalypse's mottos. As the robot possessed by Dr. Bedlam stood up with difficulty from the wreckage, a glowing orb of fiery red energy appeared in Naruto's right hand as he walked towards him. Anything else to add? Do you have any other complaints? Dr. Bedlam glanced fearfully at his helmet-covered face, and then at the molten sphere of energy in his right hand before falling to one knee and bowing his head. No, Commander. Please accept my apologies. Look at you! If only that perverted teacher of yours could see you now, Kyubi said and laughed mockingly. Imposing your will onto others with sheer violence and brutality. I'm sure he would be so proud of you. Who? I don't remember any perverted teachers. Kyubi growled. That ugly old hag really wiped all the memories of the people who treated you well in Konoha, didn't she? Don't call her that, Naruto shouted at the fox. Granny Goodness has always been there for me. She's been there for you, all right. She had to keep an eye on you so that she could fry your brain every time you stepped out of line, Kyubi said snidely. But Naruto forced himself to stop paying attention to the fox. He focused his attention on the innocent people that he was sending away with the use of his mother box's boom tubes. It had to be said that the number of prisoners and test subjects on the Rakta planet was even bigger than that of the Psions. Therefore, Naruto did not have the time to send them all to their desired destinations. The most that he could do was to transport them through a wormhole to Kurak, which was one of the few planets under the control of the Omega Men. Unlike their name might suggest, the Omega Men were not affiliated with Darkseid or Apocalypse. They were a band of freedom fighters from the Vega system whose purpose was to destroy the Citadel Empire and free the people who suffered under their tyranny. Fortunately, Dr. Bedlam's worries did not come true. Naruto managed to transport to safety all the civilians previously enslaved by the Psions and retreat with the rest of his forces before the Citadel's armada arrived. However, the demon fox inside his body never stopped rambling in his head. Kyuubi never stopped trying to convince him that his current life was a lie. Listen to me, Naruto. I have hated you since the day you were born. I still hate you. But I never lied to you. That alien you call father is a mad tyrant. He didn't save you. He didn't adopt you. He's the one who destroyed Konoha and killed everyone you held dear. Even if that were the case, didn't you hate Konoha? You should rejoice that everyone is dead. Why do you care? Naruto said in annoyance. Because I'm living inside your damn body, you stupid brat. Kyuubi roared, thoroughly enraged. Darkseid changed your memories and turned you into his tool. I don't give a rat's ass about Konoha, but Darkseid is going to get you killed, and I'm going to die with you. And we're not on our home planet. I don't know what the hell will happen to me if I were to die together with you. Stop screaming, you furry bastard, Naruto yelled back at him while holding onto his head with both hands in pain. Kyuubi's screams were so loud that it felt as if his skull were going to be split open. I don't care about your negative emotion sensing bullshit, Naruto said when his headache subsided just a bit. What I know is that all my childhood, the people of Konoha ostracized and hated me for something that was entirely outside of my control. I was an outcast. I was nothing but a convenient weapon for them. But Darkseid acknowledged my existence. He accepted me as I was, despite having filth like you sealed inside my body. Darkseid gave me a home. I've had enough of listening to you badmouth my father. I'm done listening to the filth coming out of your mouth, demon. Enjoy spending the next 3 days in complete darkness and solitude, Naruto said angrily, and weaved through a series of hand seals before placing his right hand on his stomach, on top of the Jinchuriki seal. A firm screen of golden light covered the gates inside the seal, cutting off Kyuubi's connection with him. Kyuubi thrashed and clawed at the gates of the seal viciously, and roared in helpless rage, but none of it reached Naruto. It was only a temporary solution, as the demon's chakra would corrode the barrier after a while, but it would have to do for now. Finally done arguing with the fox, Naruto dismissed all the parademons, sending them back to their barracks. Then, he headed towards Darkseid's palace. As he walked on the main road leading to the palace, a familiar sight greeted his eyes. Tens of thousands of people were out in the streets, cheering and chanting his name. The Liberator. Apocalypse Champion. The God of War. Darkseid's right hand. These were just a few of the names that he heard the enormous crowd of people shouting. When he raised his hand and waved at them, the people's cheers exploded in intensity. It was a hero's welcome. However, behind his black and red helmet, Naruto was not smiling. Despite his non-stop arguments with Kyuubi, his outright hostility towards the fox, and his claims that he did not give a damn about the Bijuu's negative emotion sensing, Naruto could not ignore his feelings entirely. The demon is trying to manipulate me, twisting my views and perception of the world around me. Father has warned me many times that Kyuubi will try to make me turn against my adopted family and home. That's what Naruto was always telling himself, almost like a broken record. On a rational level, he knew that he should not trust Kyuubi's ability to sense negative emotions. But on the other hand, he was still just human after all. He could not simply dismiss the fact that he felt only fear and terror coming from the people who were outwardly cheering for him. He could not dismiss the amount of hatred and contempt directed at him whenever he talked to Desaad, Darkseid's prime minister. He could not ignore the deceit that Kyuubi's negative emotion sensing picked up whenever he talked to Darkseid either. Eventually, Naruto arrived in front of 2 very tall black doors with a large Omega symbol encrusted on them. It was Darkseid's throne room. Inhaling deeply, Naruto let out a long breath, trying to calm down his mental state before he went in and reported to his father. Darkseid's throne room was wide, with numerous finely carved columns supporting the tall ceiling. A red carpet extended from the large double doors all the way to the back of the room, where the throne was located atop a short flight of stairs. Naruto lowered himself to one knee when he arrived in front of the throne. As he took out his black and red helmet, his appearance was finally revealed. Spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 pairs of whisker-like birthmarks marring his cheeks. At first glance, he looked no different from 2 years ago. However, a closer glance at his face would let one realize that Naruto did not look like a teenager anymore. Despite being only 18 years old now, his face appeared to have lost all its baby fat, and the dark bags under his eyes made him look several years older than he was. He looked more mature and less innocent. He seemed exhausted. The news of your exploits reached my ears even before you returned. You have done well, my son. I am proud of you. Thank you, father, Naruto spoke, allowing himself a smile. As you say, it is our destiny to bring peace and order to the universe. I chose wisely when I adopted you, Uzumaki Naruto. The Psions have been a thorn in my side for thousands of years, and their genetic experiments have struck horror in my soul. But you have finally meted out my divine judgment on them. Stand. You need not kneel in front of me, for you are my son and the heir to all I am and own. Your words honor me more than I can tell, father, Naruto said sincerely as he listened to his command and stood up. There is more than honor that I have in store for you, son, said Darkseid as he stood up from his throne and walked to Naruto. As a reward for today's conquest, I'm giving you one of the most powerful techniques of your homeworld. My spies have tried to infiltrate and retrieve this scroll for years. Take it. It's yours now. Darkseid had made it a tradition that after every one of his conquests, he would reward Naruto with a powerful technique that his spies had retrieved from his homeworld. And the blonde was always excited to gain new powers. He received the scroll from Darkseid with both hands and bowed in gratitude. Thank you, father. Darkseid smiled, very pleased with his humble attitude. Well, go on, open it. Take a look at what's inside, he said magnanimously. Unfurling the scroll as he was told, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise when he saw the name of the technique contained in the scroll, the Flying Thunder God technique. He quickly rolled the scroll back and fell to one knee again before saying in a loud voice, I won't disappoint you, father. I will learn this technique as fast as possible and use my entire strength to smite our enemies. No one shall stand in our way. No one shall stop us from conquering the world and installing an era of everlasting peace and prosperity in the universe. With his head bowed low, Naruto didn't see the evil smile that stretched Darkseid's face. I'm pleased to see you are happy with your reward. Tell me, Naruto, is there anything else you wish from me? Darkseid asked. Would you like your own world to rule? What about a powerful partner to procreate with? You are at that age, after all. Lashina. Guillotina. As if they had been waiting the entire time to be called, 2 slender but very attractive women stepped out from the shadows behind the columns of the room and sauntered to Naruto, each taking one of his arms in theirs, lifting him up to his feet, and embracing his sides. Black hair tied in a ponytail, a dominatrix-like mask covering her face, and a skin-tight black suit showing off her fit and sinuous figure, she was Lashina. As for the second woman, Guillotina, she was like the complete opposite of Lashina. Her hair was platinum blonde and fell freely to her waist, and she was dressed scantily, wearing only a white breastplate and a white loincloth-like skirt that left her entire hips and thighs exposed, just barely covering her privates. Naruto's heart rate went off the charts as he felt the 2 women pressing their warm and svelte bodies against him. However, despite his body's healthy reaction as a male to having 2 attractive women embrace him, Kyuubi's negative emotion-sensing ability threw a bucket of ice-cold water over his excitement, instantly cooling off his head. All he could sense in those 2 women was a desire to elevate their status. A desire to manipulate him and tie him down to their whims. A desire to use him like a tool, just like the demon fox in his gut was telling him. Naruto shook his head, pushing away the negative thoughts. Nevertheless, he still freed himself from Lashina and Guillotina's arms and stepped back. I'm sorry, father, I don't think I'm ready for that. But I will give it more thought after getting some rest and recovering from the battle. Darkseid patted him on the shoulder. There is no pressure. You have all the time in the world. Go, return to your quarters and rest. You have more than earned it. Lashina and Guillotina stepped back in disappointment, but Naruto didn't pay attention to them. Instead, he glanced at Darkseid. Father, may I ask you a question? Speak, what is on your mind? Naruto hesitated for a second before saying, I was thinking about my homeworld over the past few days. I can't remember many things about it. I wonder, when do you think I will be able to go back? Just for a visit. Just to remember the place where I grew up, he added quickly. Darkseid narrowed his eyes, but he kept his temper in check. Your homeworld is one of the most hostile and dangerous planets I have ever seen. On the day that I rescued you from there, Some of your jailers even activated suicidal techniques for the sake of stopping me. They decimated my parademons and annihilated my armada. All I could do was take you with me and retreat with a boom tube. You are too precious to me, my son. I cannot risk letting them sink their claws into you. I cannot risk losing you. Despite the disappointment filling his heart, Naruto did not let it show on his face. Learn the new technique that I have acquired for you. Try to harness more power from the demon parasitising your body. Once I feel like you have become truly powerful, I and the rest of Apocalypse will join you. We will go together, united as one, and pacify your homeworld, punishing all who have wronged you as a child. The perpetually dark crimson sky, the pits of fire and lava burning all over the place, the acrid smell of the air, the menacing, demonic architecture of the buildings, and the countless people dressed in rags that could not be called clothes. It was Apocalypse. And I used to think being sealed inside of you in this sewer was bad, Kyuubi's voice rumbled mockingly in Naruto's head. The blonde frowned at the fox's words. Over the last 2 years, his body had adapted to the rough living conditions of this world, but he could not claim that he loved it there. Having visited so many different planets over the past 2 years, he had yet to find a planet darker and more unappealing than Apocalypse. Nonetheless, he could not just agree with the fox, out of principle, if nothing else. Apocalypse may not be the prettiest planet in the universe, but at least I'm not living in a cage. Kyuubi's laughter echoed in the sewer of his mindscape. That's what you think. But you are imprisoned. Your cage is just big enough that you don't see the difference. Your prison is far more vile than mine. How pitiful. I almost feel sorry for you. Don't you ever get tired of spouting the same bullshit every day? Naruto grumbled back in a fed-up voice. The fox had been speaking to him daily and telling him the same thing for the better part of 2 years. Much to his delight, the fox didn't reply this time, and Naruto got a moment of peace and quiet. Around that time, the fight he was supposed to be watching with attention finally came to an end. He was in a coliseum in the capital city of Apocalypse together with Darkseid himself and Granny Goodness, an old and wrinkly woman who was in charge of Apocalypse Special Forces, the Furies. The three of them were supposed to assess the potential of the newest candidate who wished to replace Big Barda, the former captain of the Furies who had defected from Apocalypse a few months ago. The candidate in question was a tall and athletic white woman with tan skin and long red hair. She was wearing a golden armored leotard, golden greaves and gauntlets, and she was wielding a golden spear. Having emerged victorious in her duel against her opponent, the woman was about to deliver the finishing blow, but when she sensed Naruto's gaze on her, she stayed her hand. Granny Goodness stood up from her seat at that moment, and walked closer to the fence of the spectating balcony to talk to her. My treasure, you've proven yourself to be one of the finest warriors on Apocalypse. But do you really think you have what it takes to be captain of the honor guard to the almighty Darkseid? The woman raised her spear and shouted confidently. Bring them forth so they can taste my blade. Granny Goodness smirked before raising her voice to call out the Furies to enter the arena. Before the large gates of the arena were fully opened, 3 spinning blades flew out at the candidate. But Treasure had been on her guard, and she parried the first 2 flying blades by rotating her spear, then slashed at the third, swatting it away. The following fight was ferocious but short-lived. At first, Treasure went toe-to-toe with Guillotina, who was wielding dual swords, and she managed to repel Mad Harriet's wild claw attacks and even dodge Lashina's spiked whip attacks. But when the fourth of the Furies entered the fray, Treasure was quickly overwhelmed. Now, lying down in a crater made by Stampa suplexing her, Treasure was just barely hanging on to her life. That's enough, Naruto said in a loud voice. But Lashina didn't stop, and she threw her spiked whip at Treasure, wrapping it around her legs before yanking her up in the air for Mad Harriet, who had jumped up to pummel her. Their coordination as a team was flawless. Before Mad Harriet's claws could tear her apart, however, a red appendage collided with her, and she was smashed violently into one of the walls of the arena. It was a construct of chakra, greatly resembling the tail of a fox. It came from Naruto. He caught the wounded woman before she could crash down, and put her gently on the sandy floor. Despite her injuries, she wasn't in danger of dying as long as she received treatment soon. After all, she wasn't human but a new god. Didn't you hear when I told you to stop? Naruto asked as he walked towards Lashina, who was now unconsciously backing away in fear and looking up at the balcony, wordlessly begging Granny Goodness to intervene. Naruto, my dear, I think she understands now, the old woman began in a sickly sweet voice. Understands what? I can feel the rebelliousness in her. She only obeys out of fear, not because she understands the wrongness of what she was about to do. How are we supposed to bring peace and order to the universe when we can't get along with each other here? Naruto shouted, incensed. He turned his attention back to the Furies. He was not entirely aware of it, but his demonic-looking eyes and the heavy pressure of his chakra made not only the Furies sweat buckets but Granny Goodness too, despite that she was not the target of his ire. She was your comrade. Who the hell is trying to kill their comrades? This was supposed to be a trial, not a battle to the death. Are you Darkseid's honor guard or a bunch of savage beasts? The Furies did not dare say a word in front of him. They could not meet his eyes. My son, that's enough. I think you made your point, Darkseid finally spoke. Treasure here needs medical attention. Take her to the hospital yourself and ensure that she makes it, will you? Naruto would have wanted to say a thing or two more, but he stopped. He took the wounded woman in his arms, and a gust of wind raised a cloud of sand and dust in the air as he used a wind-release jutsu to take flight. Once he was gone, the Furies collapsed on their knees and started gasping for air as if they had just almost drowned. An evil grin twisted Darkseid's face when he took in the appearance of the Furies. The hatred and violence in his heart have grown stronger than ever. His mere anger left the Furies paralyzed, unable to stand. It won't be long before he will become my thrall for eternity. The Furies were some of the strongest warriors among the new gods of Apocalypse. They were the god of evil's honor guard. Those mighty beings were reduced to a trembling mess from the mere projection of Uzumaki Naruto's killing intent. Darkseid was pleased. But that smirk of satisfaction disappeared from his face when he turned to glance at the old woman next to him. You disappointed me, Granny Goodness. You led me to believe that Treasure could replace Big Barda as captain of my guard. The old woman showed a sad expression. She showed such promise. She quickly quit the sad act when Darkseid's eyes started burning with his Omega beams. Fortunately for her, Darkseid decided not to kill her on the spot. I will give you one more chance. There's been an interesting development on Earth. Bring me the Kryptonian girl who fell out of the sky, the one they call Kara. Don't fail me this time, dear Granny. I won't tolerate another failure. A training ground was crowded with a few dozen prepubescent children and an adult man wearing a ninja headband around his forehead. He was Yumino Irika, and the young children were his students. Currently, they were in the middle of a taijutsu class, and he was charged with overseeing the spar between the children. Irika's facial expression was twisted into a scowl as he scolded the two boys who were standing inside the chalk ring drawn on the ground. You two! Make the proper spar sign! It's part of the etiquette. To hell with all that! Hurry up and let me defeat this guy, the young Naruto said impatiently. This is my moment now. I'm going to become popular. The boy opposite of him let out a sigh. What a waste of time. Fine, I'll beat you quick, just like you want. Hold on, you two, for crying out loud. Irika interrupted them in exasperation. Shinobi hand-to-hand combat is a traditional training method passed down through the generations. It might be stuffy etiquette, but here at the academy we start with the basics. It matters. Despite the exaggerated face of boredom Naruto started making at him, Irika continued. You always start by showing your opponent a one-handed sign which displays your intention to fight. After the spar is done and the victor is decided, both partners present the spar sign again, then bring their hands together to form the unison sign as a show of friendship. Naruto woke up with a start. His clothes were soaked with sweat. It was not exactly a nightmare. But he could not call it a pleasant dream either. Was it truly a dream? Everything he felt in the dream was vivid, almost as if he were reliving a moment from the past. But he could not remember the names of anyone in that dream. He did not know what to make of it. He held his head with both hands and closed his eyes in a fruitless attempt to soothe his skull-splitting headache. It was one of your forgotten memories. Or, better said, one of the memories that they tried to wipe from your brain, he heard Kyubi saying. It must have resurfaced in your mind due to the incident in the arena yesterday. And how do I know it's not something you made up? Naruto spat. I'm tired of you never missing a chance to take a dig at my family, and tell me how evil they are. Give it a rest already, will you? Kyubi growled. I don't even have to bring up the negative emotion sensing ability that I shared with you. Look no further than yesterday. Comrades were just about to kill each other during a spar, and your beloved and benevolent father, Darkseid, was doing nothing to stop it. He didn't say one word of rebuke. If you weren't there, that woman would have been killed. And that woman herself would have killed her opponent before the Furies arrived. His head was pounding too hard at that moment. He could not bear to listen to another word coming from the demon fox's mouth. Going through a series of hand seals, he placed his palm on his stomach, cutting off his connection to Kyubi completely. He did not have a permanent solution to make the fox shut up, but it would have to do for the moment. Still, his headache did not disappear. On wobbly legs, he dragged his tired body to Granny Goodness' laboratory. His kind and sweet grandmother always knew how to take his pain and nightmares away. Inside the seal, QB thrashed and hit the golden barrier of light that appeared on top of the gates. He was filled with rage. Every time his words were starting to get through Naruto and bring back his forgotten memories, the boy would go to Granny Goodness to cure him of the demon's influence. And then QB would have to start everything from the beginning, all over again. The giant fox paced restlessly, his growls echoing in the cage. Unlike in the past, his rage was not directed at Naruto anymore. The only thing he felt towards the boy nowadays was pity. Just like Uchiha Madara had once put QB under his genjutsu and dominated his mind, controlling him as if he were a tool, it was happening the same with Naruto now too. The boy was nothing but a tool, a pawn on Darkseid's chessboard, and he did not even know it. Weeks passed, and life continued on Apocalypse as it always did, filled with fear, despair, and suffering. But that was the case only for the regular inhabitants of the planet, who lived as little more than slaves. It was different for the new gods. It was also different for Naruto because he was Darkseid's champion, the general of the entire Apocalyptian army. He had an entire palace dedicated to himself alone, and dozens of slaves who were instructed to obey his every whim. Alas, despite his status, Naruto rarely ever got the chance to enjoy that sort of luxury. Conquering 50 planets in 2 years and bringing them under Darkseid's heel had not been an easy task. He had spent the vast majority of that time away from Apocalypse. It was the same in the present too. Currently, he was in the Strena system, in the Andromeda Galaxy. Followed by his army of parademons, Naruto had come to quell the uprising of those who wished to leave Darkseid's rule. Defeating the army of rebels was not a difficult endeavor, but finding and capturing the ringleaders was. "You were fantastic in battle today as well, my lord," a blonde woman said, smiling sweetly and giving him the doe eyes as she looked up at him. "That's right. I've never seen anything as powerful as that spinning orb of magic you threw at them," another woman with long black hair said, pressing herself into his side and hugging his arm. They were Lashina and Guillotina, two of Darkseid's furies. Everyone on Apocalypse knew them for their violence, viciousness, and cruelty, but now they were acting like a pair of maidens in love. "Those two women are throwing themselves at you, all but begging you to take them. Why are you hesitating, Naruto?" QB asked at that moment. Then he chuckled. "My negative emotion sensing ability isn't as bad as you make it out to be, is it? Despite how you're always going on about how you cannot trust me, you're still letting this ability influence your thoughts and actions." Naruto couldn't come up with a retort because it was just as QB said. Guillotina's and Lashina's assertive behavior started all of a sudden, several weeks ago, when he returned from his 50th conquest and Darkseid offered them to him as a sort of prize. Until then, they had never tried to flirt with him or show any signs that they were attracted to him. He could tell without QB's ability to sense negative emotions that Darkseid must have ordered them to seduce him. The fact that the Furies, who were supposed to be his honor guard and stay on Apocalypse at all times to protect him, followed Naruto to battle into another galaxy further proved to him that they did not have pure intentions. "It's time for us to return," he said indifferently as he pulled his arm free from Lashina's hug. "Parademons, follow me back to Apocalypse." A chorus of demonic cries was his answer. Taking out the mother box from the pouch strapped to his belt, Naruto activated a large boom tube. As was always the case whenever he returned from battle, Darkseid was there to welcome him home. Naruto took out his helmet and smiled. "Hello, father. I have done as you asked," Naruto said as he walked to his adoptive father and dropped to one knee in front of him in respect. "I have pacified the rebellious planet again, and the leaders of the revolution were executed." Darkseid came to him and put his hands on his shoulders, gently nudging him up to his feet. "You're always making me proud," the god of evil said, smiling. "Come, I have prepared yet another prize for you." It was then that Naruto finally took notice of the blonde-haired girl standing behind Darkseid. She was svelte and a bit on the petite side, but he could not deny that she was pretty. Wearing a pair of black and red leather pants, tall platform boots, and nothing but a skimpy black bralette, Naruto wasn't sure what to look at. The girl smiled and waved at him. "This is Kara, a Kryptonian." Darkseid introduced her to him. "A Kryptonian?" Naruto said in wonder. He had heard many rumors about them over the past 2 years. He had also heard about one of Darkseid's biggest enemies, Superman, and the Justice League of Earth. However, he had never met either of them. Earth was off-limits for Apocalypse due to a treaty that Darkseid had made with High Father around 5 years ago. Nowadays, Earth was under the direct supervision of New Genesis, Apocalypse's archenemy. Should Darkseid break that treaty and attack Earth again, It was not only Superman and the Justice League that he would have to worry about but the army of new gods from New Genesis too. Is she? Naruto asked slowly. No, she's not your prize. You made yourself clear the last time I tried to offer you a lady to warm your bed at night, Darkseid said. Kara is the latest addition to our forces. Granny Goodness is in the process of training her to take on Big Barda's role, to become the captain of my Furies. She has some big shoes to fill, Naruto said. Although Big Bard had betrayed Apocalypse, there was no denying her strength and skill. I'm sure she will. If you are my right hand now, I'm sure that Kara will become my left. With the two of you at my side, no one will be able to stand in our way. Naruto walked to her and raised his hand for a handshake. I am Naruto, general of Darkseid's army and his adopted son. It's nice to meet you. Kara smiled, inwardly happy with his friendly attitude. She had heard many things about Darkseid's champion over the past few days. She had been nervous about meeting him, but it looked like her worries had been for nothing. I'm Kar Zor-El. I hope we'll become friends in the future. Naruto was secretly startled. It was probably the first time since he arrived on Apocalypse that Kyuubi had not made his negative emotion sensing ability flare up when interacting with someone. What are you up to this time around, Fox? Naruto sent a mental question to the bijou in his stomach. I didn't do anything. It just means she is not lying, nor does she have any hidden ill will towards you, Kyuubi said, his voice betraying that he was just as surprised as Naruto. Unknowingly, Naruto held Kara's hand in his the entire time he talked with the fox in his head. It did not take that long, but it was more than long enough to raise some eyebrows since it was not normal for a handshake to last that long. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. The explosion of negative emotions from La China and Guillotina, who were standing behind him, brought Naruto back to his senses and made him realize what he was doing. He stopped talking to Kyuubi and quickly let go of Kara's hand, whose face was slightly flushed now. Oh, sorry, I got lost in thought, he apologized before turning towards Darkseid and changing the subject. What was the reward you prepared for me, father? It wasn't lost on Darkseid that Naruto seemed to have taken a liking to the Kryptonian girl, but he hid his smile, not letting it show on his face. Desad. At this call, Darkseid's closest attendant and subordinate, a skinny and hunchbacked man wearing a hooded cloak, came bearing a small, dark red rectangular box in his hands. Stopping in front of Naruto, Desad opened the box and presented its contents with an air of great importance about him. What is this, Desad? Asked Naruto as he looked at the dark red stick inside the box. It was about twice as long as the width of his palm, and if he were to guess its purpose, it looked like the handle of a weapon. This is, my son, the culmination of our effort in mixing the energy called chakra from your homeworld with our apocalyptian technomagic. It is a weapon like no other. Darkseid answered him instead of Desad. Go on, give it a try. Naruto grabbed the object from the box curiously. Insert the magic slumbering in your body into the weapon. But beware! It could be deadly even to you, Desad instructed him. Doing as he was told, a bright blade of light burst forth from the handle. Naruto looked in amazement at the weapon in his hand. Thank you, father. This is amazing, he said in awe. I want to test it right away. Darkseid smiled. I'm glad you're so pleased with it. Don't let me stop you. Go ahead. Not needing another word, a powerful gale of wind blew as Naruto used his soaring wind jutsu to fly, heading straight to the training grounds. 2 days later, Naruto was in the study room of his palace, diligently studying the Justice Scroll that Darkseid had gifted to him about a month ago, the Flying Thunder God technique. He was not alone. More than 50 clones crowded the otherwise spacious room, sitting on the floor, bed, and everywhere with a copy of the scroll in their hands, also studying. Despite the fact that Darkseid had been unable to conquer Ballarat, Naruto's homeworld, the first time around, his spies had long since infiltrated the planet and collected all sorts of data, deepening their understanding of the ninja world. In the process, they also acquired as many jutsu scrolls as they could and sent them through boom tubes to Apocalypse, all for the sake of strengthening Naruto and making him as powerful as he could be. Naruto was not aware of it, but Darkseid's agents had also captured regular people and some of the weaker ninjas and brought them to Apocalypse. The energy sword that he had just received was the result of the many experiments that they had done on shinobi for the sake of understanding what chakra truly was and how to use it. He had also been kept in the dark about the fact that a new type of parademons was being engineered, a type that would be able to wield chakra, just like shinobi. The only thing that Naruto knew was that he needed to become powerful in order to bring order to the universe, and that Darkseid was doing everything he could to support him. Suddenly, a tremor shook not just his room but the entire palace. At first, he thought it was an earthquake. But another tremor came, and then another. Are we under attack? As implausible as that might sound, who would be crazy to invade Apocalypse of all places? Naruto decided to leave his clones behind to study and go outside to check the situation. It only took him a few seconds to find out the source of the commotion. The noise and tremors were all coming from the Colosseum. Is Stampa going wild again? The thick and heavy woman was built like a tank and had the power of one too. Forming a snake seal with his hands, his body became transparent, almost invisible. But there was a distortion in the air every time he moved, so anyone who paid close attention could see it. Regardless, the chameleon jutsu was a formidable A-rank technique that could be invaluable for hiding. If he stood still, he would become undetectable. Now that his body was almost invisible, he flew towards the Colosseum and landed on top of the stands. Come on, little girl. Fight back. Mad Harriet laughed as she dived under Kara's punch and clawed at her thigh, leaving a bloodied mark behind. Kara threw another punch, but Lashina's whip suddenly wrapped around her forearm and yanked her violently towards her. The Kryptonian girl tried to right herself in the air with her flight, but Sampa charged at her like a mad bull, the large woman's lariat smashing into Kara's neck painfully and sending her flying into the walls of the arena. Kara slid down the wall with a moan of pain. I thought we were training. Why are you doing this? She asked, not understanding why they were so violent that day. She pushed with her hands against the ground with difficulty, but Guillotina kicked her arms, making her collapse on the ground again. Then he crouched next to her and grabbed her roughly by her hair, forcing her to meet her eyes. Kryptonian or not, you've only just arrived on Apocalypse, little girl. What do you want from me? Kara shouted as he grabbed Guillotina's arm, her great physical strength forcing the older woman to let go of her hair. But Guillotina punched her in the face with her other hand, making blood and spittle fly from her mouth. Lashina also walked closer, winding up her spiked whip as she said, If you think we'll just sit and watch how you're stealing Lord Naruto from us, you're sorely mistaken. Guillotina, hold her down for me, will you? I'm going to crush her skull into a meat paste. Guillotina laughed as she rolled Kara's body with her feet and knelt on top of her, pressing her knee into her back. We'll just tell Granny that it was a training accident. I'm sure she'll understand us, Stampa also said maliciously. Before Lashina could throw her spiked whip at Kara's head, Guillotina was unexpectedly blasted off Kara's back like a cannonball. Moreover, right after that, 2 crimson beams incinerated Lashina's whip, making her cry out in pain as the heat was transmitted to her hand, burning her flesh. Kara flew up in the air, her eyes still glowing crimson with her heat vision as she glared at the 4 Furies surrounding her. Stampa was the first to let out a battle cry and lunge at Kara like a juggernaut. But the Kryptonian girl didn't back away, and her heat vision exploded at full power. However, at the very last moment, a massive earth rampart burst from the ground, dividing the entire arena in half. Stampa made a crater into the newly erected rock barrier, and Supergirl's heat vision gored a deep ravine into it too, but neither of their attacks destroyed the wall completely. The women in the arena all stopped when they noticed Naruto appearing on top of the earth wall like a ghost. Ugh, Lord Naruto, we were just about to finish our training for today, Lashina stammered and quickly scurried away. The other 3 Furies did not dare to stay a second longer and ran after Lashina too. They knew that none of the excuses they could come up with would hold. Their general was infamous on Apocalypse for always knowing when someone lied to him. Naruto let out a sigh as he watched them run away. I'm going to have a serious discussion with Granny Goodness about these 4 very soon, he said in frustration. Jumping down from the earth wall, he walked to Kara and asked, Are you alright? Still boiling with anger from how the Furies treated her and with adrenaline coursing through her veins, Kara snapped at him. I didn't need your help. I don't need your protection. Naruto glanced at the deep marks left in his earth wall before turning to look at the girl. I wasn't protecting you. I was protecting them. Your heat vision could have killed them on the spot. We don't do this here. We are comrades. Comrades? You've got to be kidding. I heard your heartbeat the moment you arrived, so don't tell me you haven't seen the way they were acting. They hate me, she shouted. Kara let herself down on the ground again and looked away from him. They hated me on Earth. And now it looks like they hate me on Apocalypse too. What did I do to deserve any of that? Naruto scratched the back of his head. He had no idea how to comfort a girl or anyone else for that matter. I don't know what your history was on Earth, but I'll make sure you're treated well on Apocalypse from now on. Kara crossed her arms to her chest and huffed. What's it to you? Why do you care? Father has very high expectations from you, Naruto said simply. And I can sense that you're not like the rest. You're not like the Furies, he elaborated at her questioning look. You can't be here and watch over us forever. Sooner or later, they will try to bully me again. But next time, I won't just let them have their way. I'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget for as long as they're alive. Naruto hummed in thought for a few moments. How about this? I'll train you. Whether it's about fights, weaponry and technology, or how to lead an army, I'll teach you everything I know. Kara looked at him searchingly, as if she were trying to find a sign of deceit in his eyes. But his eyes appeared to be clear and pure, with no ill intent or malice hidden within. Again, why are you being so helpful to me? What are you after? She asked suspiciously. He could not tell her the real reason why he wished to get close to her, that she was the first person in his memory for whom his negative emotion sensing was not being triggered. Therefore, he just gave a simple answer. All I'm after is for you to reach your full potential. Father's will, Darkseid's will, is my will too. That's all? Just because of that? She asked with a doubtful look on her face. Well, there's also the side benefit of being friends with a cute girl, so there's that, Naruto said, smirking. Kara could not fight off the traitorous smile that formed on her face at being called cute. Friends? She asked, grinning. Friends, he answered. As they shook hands, Kara and Naruto smiled. Seeing as either could remember well their lives from before arriving on Apocalypse, as far as they knew, they were each other's first friend. The sound of air being displaced was heard, and then a soft thud rang as a heavy object crashed on the carpet-covered floor. Damn it. Not for the first time, he failed. Naruto did not consider himself a genius, but thanks to the overpowered ability of his shadow clones when it came to learning and training, he often mastered new techniques in a matter of minutes. Things were just not working like usual this time. He grabbed the open scroll lying on the floor nearby and sat down on the thick carpet as he started studying again. Father gifted me this technique more than a month ago, but I still haven't mastered it. It was the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Is my sealing formula wrong? If it's wrong, what exactly is the problem? Hiraishin was not the type of ability that could be mastered merely by mindlessly grinding over it in training, like with any other jutsu he had learned in the past. Mastering this technique required a deep understanding of Fuinjutsu, but that was a shinobi art that Naruto had never dabbled in until a month ago. Luckily, Darkseid had provided him with other scrolls from his homeworld to aid him in learning this new technique, but it was a work in progress. It's only a matter of time before I get it down. Despite his thoughts, inwardly, he started getting anxious. Darkseid saved him from his war-torn homeworld and adopted him as his son. Naruto was immensely grateful to him. Not just that, he worshipped Darkseid. He did not want to disappoint him. It was why he had been striving so hard to conquer and pacify other planets as quickly and as cleanly as possible. Sure, having already understood the gist of the technique, mastering it was only a matter of time at this point. But he could not afford to drag it on for too long because Darkseid's campaigns had been put on hold while he was training. After all, he was the general of the army. The army could not move without his command. Should I put on hold mastering this jutsu? Suddenly, a soft vanilla fragrance wafted over, and two hands covered his eyes. Guess who? Although he was inwardly startled at first, he smiled. Kara? The girl in question giggled as she took her hands off his eyes and flew in front of him. How did you know it was me? No one else can sneak up on me, he said. Only you? Due to Kyuubi's negative emotion sensing, Naruto always knew where everyone else in Apocalypse was at any moment. But that ability never triggered for the Kryptonian girl. Should I feel special now? She said teasingly. You are special. There's no question about that. His blunt confirmation took her by surprise. To mask her embarrassment, she started floating around the room aimlessly. What are you studying? She asked, flying behind him and looking over his shoulder at the scroll in his lap. It's a teleportation technique from my homeworld. But can't you teleport already? You have the boom tubes and that body flicker ability of yours too. He turned his head to look at her, but then he froze. Their faces were so close that their noses were almost touching. Sorry, Kara quickly scooted back, her face getting red. Naruto felt himself grow hot under the collar, but he continued talking as if nothing happened. Boom tubes aren't for battle. And body flicker is not teleportation. It's just a very high-speed movement technique. I see, she replied quietly. Naruto returned his attention to his scroll, and Kara sighed as she started floating horizontally on her back, her mid-length blonde hair nearly touching the floor. When she saw he wasn't paying attention to her and focused on the scroll in his hands, she started flying in circles around him. Kara, you're being distracting. I'm trying to study here. But I'm so bored. Let's go out and do something fun. We had fun yesterday, and your idea of fun had decided blow a gasket for 2 hours. She snickered when she recalled the frail man's agitation. You can't lie to me. I know you had fun too. Naruto raised his eyes from his scroll. I am not letting you pilot a destroyer again. You blew up the whole southern wing of the fortress. Go watch some fights in the arena if you're bored. On a planet as militaristic as Apocalypse, strength reigned supreme. The arena in the capital city of Apocalypse was never empty. Hundreds of warriors were testing their skills against each other there every day. I don't like watching people fight each other. You didn't have a problem beating the crap out of the Furies 2 days ago. Still flying in circles around Naruto, with her hands behind her head, she answered. Granny Goodness wanted to see my progress under your tutelage. I wanted to make you proud, so I had to show them what a good teacher you are. As if you just wanted to get back at them. They both started laughing. Naruto kept the promise he made when he stopped her fight against the Furies. He started training Kara himself instead of letting the Furies and Granny Goodness do it, and he had been very earnest about it because he loved her company. He loved spending time with her. Kara was his first, and only, friend, so he had trained her to the best of his capability. He did not know if it was a trait of the Kryptonian race or if Kara herself was a genius, but one thing was clear, she absorbed his teachings like a sponge. Her hand-to-hand combat skills were already good enough to rival his. It was almost scary how quickly she was learning and adapting. That being said, when Granny Goodness requested to see Kara's skills after she spent 2 weeks under Naruto's tutelage and pitted her against all of her Furies at the same time, Kara absolutely destroyed them. And she had not been gentle about it. It was a warm and sunny day in spring. Boys and girls were outside playing ball or hopscotch, and grown men and women were tending to their lawns, having a barbecue, walking their dogs, or jogging. It was a quiet and peaceful neighborhood where nothing extraordinary ever happened. And that was the reason why the entire street appeared as though it had frozen when 2 unusual individuals, a man and a woman, suddenly dropped from the sky. They were flying. The 2 eye-catching newcomers climbed on the porch of a house and knocked politely on the door. They waited in front of the door for nearly half a minute before they finally got an answer. The door opened, revealing a very tall, well over 6 feet, an athletic woman. Going by the state of her undress, she was wearing nothing but a towel wrapped around her body and one on her head. It appeared as though she had just got out of the shower. When I said you can drop in any time, this isn't quite what I pictured, she said when she saw who her uninvited guests were. Hello, Barda, the woman among the 2 said in greeting. Barda looked at them exasperated. Then, her eyes unconsciously took in the number of curious spectators who were unashamedly staring at them. Diana, I hope you didn't park an invisible plane in the driveway, right? Big Barda said jokingly. But Superman was too anxious to be in the mood to exchange pleasantries. We need to talk, he said directly and stepped through the door. Can I get dressed first? Barda asked rhetorically as she made way for the 2 heroes to enter her house. When she closed the door, she realized that there was a third person in her home. He must have broken in through the back door. Diana, Superman, and Batman, what brings you all 3 here? Barda asked. We need your help, Batman said. You were captain of Darkseid's honor guard, weren't you? I defected, Big Barda replied as she took the towel off her head, letting her wet hair fall free on her shoulders. Was it easy? No. But for the first time, I'm free. And this nice, quiet, boring little life is all mine. As the former captain of the Furies, Barda had had enough excitement and thrilling battles to last her 5 lifetimes. She was in love with her new, peaceful life, away from Apocalypse and Darkseid. I'm sorry to spring this up on you, but I don't know who else to go to. Darkseid has kidnapped my cousin Kara. Then she is lost to you. I'm sorry, Barda said bluntly, not beating around the bush. Barda, We can't just, Superman began to say in an agitated voice, but Big Barda cut him off. Listen to me, it's too late. Darkseid will control her mind. He will exploit her weaknesses and mold her into a killing machine. Just like he did to me. Superman lost his ire when he heard the vulnerable tone of her voice. Barda, we know that you were made to do terrible things, and no one blames you. But now he's got Kara. She is the only blood-related family I have left. I have to go to Apocalypse. I can't give up on her. But Big Barda wasn't easily convinced. You have no idea what you're up against. Then tell us. We could use all the information we could get, Batman said. We are not asking you to come with us, Superman added. All we need is to get access to your mother box so that we can generate a boom tube that would take us to Apocalypse. You're talking as if you're thinking you're coming back, said Barda. There are no exits from that place, Superman. Apocalypse is located in a different dimension. There are no conventional methods of going there or leaving. The entire planet is a death trap. There are hundreds of thousands of parademons, slaves, and hundreds of new gods, elite warriors not much weaker than me who serve Darkseid. The Justice League has dealt with parademons and Darkseid's other lackeys before just fine, said Batman. But you haven't dealt with anyone like him. You've never met anyone like that person. Who are you talking about, Barda? Diana asked. Darkseid's adopted son. Or, better said, his ultimate weapon that he brainwashed into obeying him. If you're talking about Kalibak, he's hardly a threat, Superman said. Kalibak was killed 2 years ago. So, no, I'm not talking about him. Darkseid has a newly adopted son. A powerful warrior, a one-man army, and I am not talking figuratively. He can make clones of himself, hundreds of them, and each clone is strong enough to defeat me. For the first time since they arrived at Barda's home, a crack seemed to appear in the confidence of the 3 members of the Justice League. They all knew how strong Big Barda was. Wonder Woman, in particular, saw her as an equal. Someone who was so powerful that he could make hundreds of clones as strong as Big Barda was definitely someone to be wary of. And if you think that's bad, he is a Warmage too. A Warmage? Superman asked, not quite sure what to make of her statement. A magician who specializes in battle magic. Fire, lightning, wind, earth, and water, you name it. He can control all the elements to a devastating effect. Is there anything that he can't do? Batman asked. That's the problem. I don't know. I defected from Apocalypse nearly half a year ago, but from the time of his arrival until I defected, he had conquered and enslaved over 30 planets in Darkseid's name. I'm telling you, going to Apocalypse would be no different from suicide. Nevertheless, her warnings were not enough to scare the superheroes into giving up. Once again, we are not asking you to come with us, Diana pleaded. Not after you just escaped from Apocalypse. All we ask is for you to open the path for us there. Just lend us your mother box. You won't change your mind no matter what I say, huh? Big Barda sighed. Fine, I'll help you get to Apocalypse. But we need a plan. Do you mean that you want to come with us? Batman asked, surprised that she changed her mind after how hard she had tried to dissuade them. I can't, in good conscience, let you go there blind, she answered. I know Darkseid's fortress like the back of my hand. If there is any chance for the Justice League to make it out of Apocalypse alive, you need me. While the Justice League and Big Barda were in the middle of making a plan to invade Apocalypse, Kara was having a far more pleasant time than they thought. Having managed to convince Naruto to leave a clone to study in his place, the two of them were now on the outskirts of the city, heading towards their usual training ground. Due to the destructive nature of their abilities, they could not train in the arena like most of the new gods. They had to go in a place far away from populated areas, in the wastelands. Race you to the Dread Canyon? Kara smirked confidently. You're on. Naruto met her challenge with a smirk, and a cloak of red chakra appeared around his body. Already bringing out the demon's power? Someone really wants to win this race. I have to do at least this much to keep up with you, Naruto said, not ashamed in the least. He would need to go all out if he wanted to stand a chance against her. After all, Kara was a Kryptonian. Speed was one of her greatest strengths. They got in position and started counting together. 3, 2, 1. A shockwave boomed as the two of them broke the sound barrier. You only won because you are flying, Naruto said, bummed out. Their race was very intense but also very short due to the speed at which they had been moving. Kara laughed happily at his disgruntled face. You can fly too. No one asked you to run on the ground? You know very well that my flight isn't as fast as my running speed. His soaring wind jutsu did allow him to fly, but it could not be compared to his speed when sprinting on the ground with the aid of Kyuubi's chakra. That sounds like a you problem, she said, giggling. They spent several minutes bantering back and forth like that. Eventually, they stopped fooling around. After all, they did come there to train. Their training ground was one of the many wastelands on the planet Apocalypse. There was no nature on Apocalypse. No rivers, no seas, no vegetation, no fauna. It was a barren planet holding nothing but dirt, rocks, deserts, and lava. Now that they were in the Dread Canyon, they could go all out without fearing for other people's safety. Kara did not need an invitation, and she charged at Naruto with a kick right off the bat. He blocked it, but the strength behind her strike made Naruto unable to counter. Kara took advantage of that and kicked once more with her other foot, utilizing her flight perfectly to supplement her fighting ability. The two of them spent the next half an hour sparring. Naruto did not use his ninjutsu or weapons, and Kara did not use her heat vision or ice breath. They did not go at it with their full power either. It was only a spar to hone their skills, not a grudge match or a battle to the death. During their last exchange of punches, one of the strings of Kara's bralette snapped, and Naruto backed away, putting some space between them. Your clothes. Her black bralette was holding only onto her right shoulder now, with the left part coming precariously close to exposing her left breast. Kara glanced at her bare shoulder, and then at him. A smirk made its way on her face when she saw Naruto's eyes dropping to her nearly exposed chest for a split second before quickly looking away. He flushed when he realized that she caught him in the act. "What about my clothes?" she asked, stepping closer to Naruto, making him unconsciously step back to maintain the distance between them. "Don't act like you don't know. Why are you even wearing those sorts of clothes when we're training anyway?" "What's wrong with the clothes I wear?" Her smirk just widened when she realized he was flustered, and she started fighting again. The act of throwing a punch made her skimpy bralette slide down just a bit more, and Naruto was so distracted by the sight of it that he got decked straight in the jaw and sent flying. She snickered at him when he lied on the ground spread eagle after he got punched. "All right, you win. I give up," he said. "This isn't about winning or losing. It's about honing my skills, so get up. We have to continue training." "Not until you start wearing a proper training outfit," Naruto muttered, still lying down. Someone is embarrassed. Was seeing a bit of womanly flesh all it took to defeat the mighty general of the Apocalyptian army? She teased him. What would you do if your enemy was a girl and she pulled a stunt like that in battle? She flew at him, and Naruto quickly rolled away and then got back to his feet. "Your blushing face is so cute," Kara cooed as she chased after his retreating form. "Damn it, Kara! Okay. You asked for this." Kara ignored his threat and lunged at him again. But when her flying kick smashed into Naruto's back, he exploded into a plume of smoke. "Shadow clone?" She instinctively turned around, but she couldn't dodge in time, and Naruto tackled her to the ground. "Hey! You weren't supposed to use any special powers. And you weren't supposed to fight naked," he grunted out in response while he used his entire strength trying to pin her down. He was using the Bijuu's chakra to augment his strength to the maximum, but he could still not get the upper hand against her. Naruto and Kara rolled around on the ground as they wrestled, grunting and screaming in exertion as they tried to overpower each other. Alas, although he had put up a valiant fight, in the end, he was no match for a Kryptonian's physical strength. "Huff, I got you. I win!" Sitting on top of him with her legs on each side of his waist, Kara was gasping for air as she pinned Naruto down, holding his wrists above his head. Naruto too was breathing laboriously, his face and forehead covered in sweat as he looked at Kara above him. Kara grinned in delight, reveling in the feeling of victory. But her smile froze when she felt something pressing against her from below, touching her most intimate area. Glancing at Naruto, she saw him staring at a place under her face. It was then that she realized that her bralette had come undone completely during their scuffle on the ground, revealing her womanly figure to him entirely. Sitting on his throne-like chair, Darkseid had a smile on his face as he watched an intense fight between 5 women. "You have done a fantastic job training her, my son," said Darkseid. "When I brought her here, she was a scared little girl. Unsure of herself, scared of her own powers and abilities. But look at her now. I reckon even Big Barda wouldn't hold a candle to her." At that moment, Kara ripped out a giant chunk of the massive Colosseum and hurled it at Stampa, the most physically imposing fighter among the Furies. The burly woman let out a battle cry as she braced herself for the impact, but she had underestimated the velocity at which Kara had thrown the piece of building at her. She was flattened and buried in the ground. It's mostly on her. I don't know if it's a Kryptonian thing or if it's just her who is that talented, but her ability to learn new skills and information often makes me think of the Uchiha from my homeworld, the ones who could copy techniques and skills with a glance. She's incredible. Stampa lay unconscious in a crater, Mad Harriet was frozen in a block of ice due to Kara's ice breath, and Guillotina had a bloodied and charred wound on her shoulder from Kara's heat vision. Lashina was the only one still able to fight. She wielded her whip, throwing its spiked end at the Kryptonian girl with all her strength. Even regular humans could break the sound barrier with a strike of a bullwhip, to say nothing of a new god like her. Nonetheless, Kara was just too fast for her. Lashina's whip hit nothing but an afterimage, and before she could react, Kara appeared in front of her, her fists mere centimeters away from her face. I'm going to die. That was Lashina's unconscious thought. At the very last moment, Kara stopped her fist from turning Lashina's head into a gory paste. Instead, she flicked her finger on her forehead. It was just a finger flick, but Lashina was flung backwards as if she had been smashed by a speeding truck, leaving a human imprint on the wall of the arena. Darkseid stood up from his throne-like chair and clapped his hands. Impressive. Bravo. Kara smiled happily at his praise and made a victory sign with her fingers. Neither Kara nor Darkseid noticed that after Supergirl knocked Lashina out cold with a finger flick, a grimace of pain twisted Naruto's face. A blonde woman appeared in his mind. In that memory, she seemed taller than him. Hazel eyes, a diamond-shaped mark on her forehead, and an impressive figure, especially in the chest department. She was a mature woman of rare beauty. Though I may not look like it, I am one of the Sannin. Why should I take a genin seriously? She raised her index finger and pointed it at him. With one finger. This is enough to take you down. Naruto involuntarily let out a groan of pain as he remembered the rest of the memory. It was as if his brain were fighting against it. Something was trying to block his memory. The sound he made attracted Darkseid's attention, and he turned to look at him. Is there something wrong? No, father. I am only a bit tired. I might have overtrained yesterday. I do want our campaign of conquest to start as soon as possible, but not at the cost of your health. You are more precious to me than anything else, said Darkseid and patted him on the shoulder. Make sure you rest properly. How about you take the rest of the day off and spend some time with Kara? Maybe go on a little trip to one of the worlds you have conquered. I have been told that the two of you share a special relationship now. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, chuckling awkwardly. You have nothing to worry about. I am not against your relationship. Quite the opposite. A Kryptonian and a warrior of your caliber, I can only imagine how powerful a child coming from your union would be. Naruto's embarrassment only grew bigger at his words. As he left the arena and returned to his quarters, Kyuubi's deep chuckle rang in his head. Why did you lie to him, Naruto? Kyuubi asked in an insinuating voice. I had a new flash of memory while watching Kara train with the Furies, Naruto said honestly. It was about a woman with blonde hair and crazy physical strength. In that memory, my younger self fought her, but she sent me flying with a finger flick. She also split the whole street in half with just a finger. So you're wondering if your little lover is related to her in some way? Kyuubi asked in understanding. Yes. What if it's just another fake memory that I created? The fox said snidely. You always say that whenever you remember anything from your past and quickly run like a dog to your so-called grandma for her to cure you. Why aren't you doing the same now too? Look, I don't want to fight. If you don't want to talk, fine. Forget I said anything, Naruto spat in annoyance. Kyuubi let out a sigh and dropped the confrontational tone. Her name was Tsunade, the fifth Hokage. She was your grandmother figure, the real one. The two of you argued all the time because you were a disrespectful little shit, but she cared about you deeply. But no, similarities aside, there is no relation between Tsunade and your Kryptonian girlfriend. I see. Thanks, Kyuubi, muttered the blonde. With his mean and vindictive tendencies, Kyuubi would have loved to rub it in and tell Naruto something like I told you so, but he chose to hold his tongue. It looked like Naruto's brainwashing was finally starting to crack after such a long time. He did not want to halt its progress now with his antagonistic attitude. That night, Kara was lying with her head on Naruto's shoulder, drawing circles with her finger on his strong chest. The two of them were both 18 years old, but whereas Kara was rather short and petite, Naruto was a head taller than her, and his body looked like it was sculpted from marble. He was nowhere near as burly or as tall as her Kryptonian cousin, Superman, but he was shredded. It was the result of nearly a decade of strenuous physical training and battles as a shinobi. She draped a slender leg over his waist and pressed herself tighter against his body. A smile of content graced her face when Naruto embraced her in his sleep. Witnessing her parents' deaths, watching her homeworld explode, and seeing her cousin on Earth not accepting her had led Kara to believe that she was all alone in the universe and that nobody wanted her. But Darkseid brought me here, to Apocalypse. He gave me a home. Sure, things weren't perfect on Apocalypse either, especially when she had just arrived and the Furies tried to make her life miserable, but everything was much better now. Not only did she finally have a place to belong as the captain of Darkseid's honor guard, but she had found love too. Her mind filled with pleasant thoughts, Kara let out a quiet giggle as she rubbed her cheek on Naruto's shoulder. "What are you laughing at?" asked Naruto in a sleepy voice. Her silent laughter had woken him up. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake up. I'm just so happy." It was to the point where she couldn't contain her feelings. She moved her body on top of his completely and straddled his waist. She laid down on him and rested her head under his chin. Naruto smiled as he caressed her hair and ran his other hand gently over her naked back. Having made love earlier that night, now they were content just lying in each other's arms. It was a feeling of intimacy different from their usual trysts. He didn't mind her weight on top of him, and she loved the warmth of his body too. Soon, the two of them fell asleep. But they were rudely awakened when a massive explosion made the entire royal palace of Apocalypse shudder. Naruto and Kara were startled awake, and they jumped out of bed at the same time. "Enemies," Naruto said, his negative emotions sensing having already located the source of the explosion. He rushed to the closet and took out his black and red combat suit. Kara also changed into her day clothes in the blink of an eye. "Kara, go to my father's side," Naruto told her seriously. After all, Kara was the captain of Darkseid's honor guard. Her most important duty was to protect Darkseid. "Understood," she said and flew out of the room. Naruto formed a cross-hand seal, and 5 shadow clones appeared next to him. He did not tell them anything, for they all knew what they had to do. 1 second later, the 6 of them disappeared with a body flicker movement. Big Barda and the 7 members of the Justice League were all gathered at the watchtower together. Before Barda opened a boom tube to Apocalypse, Superman said a few last words. "We've been over the plan. Everyone knows what they have to do." He paused for a moment and then added, "We've been through many difficult trials in the past, but we've always prevailed by working together. This time, we'll be facing a challenge bigger than any other. I want to thank all of you for supporting me in this endeavor. I know it's not easy." "Come on, big guy, we've been friends for years," Flash cut off his words and blurred over to him, putting an arm around his shoulder. "Darkseid took away your family. Of course that we'd help you save her. You'd do the same for us, wouldn't you?" Without hesitation, Superman said with conviction. "Well, there you have it," John Stewart, the Green Lantern, also said. "Flash is right. We have your back, Superman." Flash took the initiative to put his hand out in the middle. Wonder Woman put her hand on top of his, and following her, so did Superman, Martian Manhunter, and Green Lantern too. Hawkgirl seemed a bit uncomfortable, but she did join them too in the end. "I'm not doing that," Batman said with a deadpan. It was like pouring a bucket of ice over their burning spirits. "Of course you don't. You're too cool for us, ain't ya? Boo! Someone boo this man!" Flash jeered at him. Hawkgirl found herself snickering at Flash's antics, and with that, the awkward moment created by Batman not joining their group bonding moment passed. "Are we ready?" Big Barda asked, holding a mother box in her hands. "One last check, everyone knows what they have to do, right?" "Yes," everyone answered in a chorus. "I will head straight to Darkseid's throne room." "Flash?" Superman asked. "I'll do what I do best, create chaos amongst their ranks. I will also be the backup for whoever is unlucky enough to encounter the true body of Darkseid's adopted son." "Martian Manhunter?" "I will infiltrate their power plant and shut down their power." "Big Barda, Wonder Woman?" "The two of us will keep Darkseid's Furies busy," Wonder Woman replied. "Hawkgirl, Green Lantern?" "We will beat the crap out of all the so-called new gods who will try to stop you from getting to Darkseid's throne room," Hawkgirl said, patting her spiked mace into her palm. "Not the way I would have put it, but yes," John Stewart agreed. Lastly, Batman? I will infiltrate their arsenal and arm their hellspores, Batman said calmly. The rest of the members of the Justice League glanced at each other worriedly. Sensing their unease, Batman said, I have no intention of blowing up the entirety of Apocalypse. But it's always better to have a plan B. Always the optimist, aren't you? Hawkgirl's sardonic question came. As Batman glared at Hawkgirl, Big Barda spoke in his defense. It is only wise to prepare for a scenario where things don't go our way. Even with the element of surprise on our side, we are at a severe disadvantage against Darkseid and his troops. We need all the advantages that we can get. Batman nodded, pleased that someone was rational enough to understand the reason why he had to do it. Those hellspores will be our ace in the hole in case things go south. It will be our escape ticket, said Batman. Now that their preparations were ready, Big Barda activated the mother box and opened a boom tube. It was a doorway to Apocalypse, a one-way ticket to hell. Ignoring the deafening alarms blaring throughout the city, Superman, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern flew in a straight line towards Darkseid's palace. Hundreds of parademons blackened the crimson-red sky as they started converging on the three heroes' location, firing a rain of fireballs at them. John was quick to conjure a sphere of green light around the three of them, protecting themselves from the first wave of fire attacks. Before the parademons could launch a second attack, Superman blitzed through the sky, his punches leaving basketball-sized holes into their bodies. The Man of Steel always held back. He was always worried that his great strength could injure or even kill the people around him. There were times when he felt as if he lived in a world made of cardboard. But now, a portion of his true strength was unleashed, and he stopped holding back as much as he always did, for he was facing an army of beings with no will, intelligence, or emotions of their own. The parademons were bioengineered creatures whose entire life purpose was to serve Darkseid. There was no need for him to be soft against them, especially now, when he was in a rush to find and rescue his family. But Superman was not merely fighting against the parademons. Simultaneously, he was also using his X-ray vision to search for his cousin. Guys, I found her! Superman shouted in his earpiece. She's in Darkseid's throne room. Go ahead, Superman. We'll cover you! Hawkgirl shouted, and she appeared to transform into a whirlwind of electricity and death as she violently smashed the skulls of all parademons in the vicinity with her nth metal mace. Not one to be left behind, John Stewart also willed his power ring to conjure a construct of green light that looked like a massive mounted machine gun and started firing thousands of rounds of green light bullets per second, clearing entire swaths of parademons around them. Knowing that his trusty teammates had his back, Superman stopped worrying about the parademons' attacks on him and rushed to Darkseid's palace. He smashed his way through the walls, ignoring all rooms, stairs, and corridors, until he arrived outside the throne room. Go on, what are you waiting for? Hawkgirl asked when they arrived in front of the massive double doors. We shall let nobody pass. Superman took one last look at his friends, just in time to see an army of robots and a few dozen new gods with Devilants at their forefront running through the holes that he had created in the walls, but he decided to put his trust in Hawkgirl and Green Lantern, knowing how reliable they were. Pushing the palace's doors open, Superman was greeted by the sight of a large room with a very tall ceiling supported by numerous majestic, finely carved pillars. And at the very end of the room was Darkseid, sitting on his throne. Alas, the Man of Steel barely gave him a glance. His eyes locked onto Kara, unable to look away. Not taking his eyes off his cousin, he spoke. Darkseid, Kara leaves with me. The god of evil was amused. She's free to leave if that's what she desires. Hello, Cal, Kara said in greeting. Nice of you to stop by. But between you and me, we could have done without the explosions in the middle of the night. Kara. He had expected his cousin to jump into his arms and be overjoyed at finally seeing him again and being able to escape from Apocalypse. But what stood in front of him was a Kara who looked more than a little annoyed with his appearance. I don't know what he's done to you, but the nightmare is over, Superman said as he flew to her. I am here. You're safe now. Let's go home. Kara didn't take his extended hand. We're going to have a problem, cousin, because I am home. Apocalypse is my home. You're just confused, Superman tried to talk sense into her and grabbed her by the arm. But the girl yanked her arm out of his grasp and decked him in the jaw, sending him flying like a cannonball into the wall. You didn't listen to what Darkseid said. You never listened to anyone. He said I was free to go if I wanted to. And I don't want to. Superman had yet to pick himself up from the crater his body made in the wall when Kara smashed her high-heeled boots into his chest, making spittle fly out of his mouth from the strength of her double kick. An evil grin twisted Darkseid's face. Good. Now kill him, Darkseid ordered. Superman groaned in pain as he tried to stand up, but Kara smashed her foot into his chest again, keeping him down. I won't fight you, Superman said through the pain. Good. That just makes my job easier, Kara replied, her eyes turning crimson with her heat vision. All these years of pretending to be human have made you soft. But I know who I am, and I accept myself fully. I am a Kryptonian. I am a warrior. I am Darkseid's left hand. Do not hesitate, Kara. Kill him now. Darkseid shouted from his throne in a strange mixture of excitement and irritation. Kill him, and everything he owns shall be yours. The Earth will be yours to rule and manage as you see fit. Kara smirked and lifted Superman by the throat. As you wish, Darkseid. You think killing me will accomplish anything? He's just using you, like a tool. You know nothing about Darkseid. He took me in when you threw me away, when you left me to rot with the Amazons. He gave me a home. He cares about me. Kara shouted at him. No, Kara, I didn't throw you away. You were kidnapped and taken away from me. Darkseid doesn't care about you more than he can use you. I care about you. I didn't want to believe what Barda told me, but it seems like she was right. Darkseid's control over you is absolute. I see that now. I'm sorry, Kara. You leave me no choice. Saying those words, Superman threw a palm strike to her sternum, sending Kara flying through one of the walls of the throne room, straight outside the palace. Flying above the royal city of Apocalypse, Clone Naruto glared at a red and yellow blur of light that was flashing all over the place, phasing through buildings, war machines, and even through the parademons, destroying everything in his way. I've never seen anyone this fast in my entire life. That metahuman's ability to phase through objects and destroy them from within was also different from anything he had ever seen. Single-target techniques would be useless against someone as fast as him. I need something big. No, something enormous, something that would render his speed useless. Bearing that thought in mind, Clone Naruto went through a series of 4-hand seals before his chest was inflated beyond the capacity of a regular human, and a massive torrent of water burst out from his mouth. Exploding water colliding wave. A regular shinobi would have found it almost impossible to create such an enormous amount of water on a planet as dry and arid as Apocalypse, but, as the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, Naruto was anything but normal. A lake's worth of water flooded the capital city, running over all the beasts, war machines, and parademons in the streets. The speedster was flushed away by the massive tsunami-like wave too, colliding painfully against several buildings as the current carried him all over the place. Overconfident in his speed, Flash often let his guard down, and his opponents had taken advantage of that on more than one occasion. Such was the case in the present as well. On the other side of the royal city, Batman killed 2 parademons and stole their armor before infiltrating the armory. Breaking through the security protocols had not been particularly difficult for someone with his talents. Now, he was inside a room holding no fewer than 500 hellspores. They were round, dark red egg-shaped devices about as tall as a human's waist. The explosion of one hellspore was powerful enough to destroy a planet. What if 500 of them were to blow up simultaneously? There wouldn't be a speck of dust left from Apocalypse. Batman took out his mini-computer, and his fingers appeared to become a blur as he started working as fast as possible to decrypt the arming code of the hellspores. All of a sudden, a lightning-coated kunai split the air, and it was sheer instinct that allowed Batman to dodge it by a hair's breadth. His mini-computer, however, was not as fortunate. The Dark Knight felt his back break into a cold sweat when he saw the football-sized crater that the lightning-coated kunai had made into the ground. If that knife had hit me, I would have died on the spot. He looked at his assailant. Nothing about his appearance could be discerned other than the fact that it appeared to be humanoid. Nonetheless, the black combat suit with red accents, the ninja-like weapon, and the lightning magic he had just used betrayed his identity. Darkseid's adopted son. An exploding batarang slipped into his hand, but just as he raised his arm to throw it, Naruto appeared to have teleported in front of him and grabbed him by the wrist. It wasn't actual teleportation but a body flicker movement. 1 second later, Batman howled in agony as his forearm was snapped like a twig. "Don't worry, I won't be killing you," Naruto said, his mother box translating his words into English at the same time he was talking. "After all, I'm curious to find out just how crazy one must be in order to invade Apocalypse. Granny Goodness will have the time of her life picking your brain apart and pulling all the information hidden within. Despite the terrible pain coming from his broken forearm, Batman forced himself to stand to his feet and grabbed a hand grenade from his utility belt. He just barely managed to bring the grenade to his mouth and pull its pin out with his teeth when two arms burst out of the concrete floor and grabbed Batman by the ankles. It was Earth Release, Headhunter technique. Two things happened instantaneously. Batman suddenly and inexplicably found himself buried into the ground up to his neck. The grenade whose pin Batman had pulled out also fell on the floor and exploded. However, it was not fire and shrapnel that exploded from the grenade. Instead, it was an extremely powerful sound wave. Caught completely off guard, the two Shadow Clones' eardrums couldn't handle it, and they were both dispelled in a puff of smoke. The sound attack was very powerful but also short. The sound grenade was a device that Batman had created after Big Barda told everyone that Uzumaki Naruto's Shadow Clones would be dispelled upon being hit once. All members of the Justice League carried such sound grenades on their persons, and the earpieces they used to communicate with each other also offered protection against the frequency of the sound grenades. Although he had managed to catch the Shadow Clone by surprise, Batman could not be any more miserable at that moment. He was buried in the concrete floor up to his neck. His utility belt did have many wondrous gadgets in it, but they were all simply out of his reach. He could not move an inch, not even a finger. He could not even activate his earpiece to ask for his teammates' help. Initially outnumbered, Wonder Woman and Big Barda had a difficult time fighting against Darkseid's four Furies. But after Big Barda thrust her spear into Stampa's heart, killing her, the remaining three Furies could no longer overwhelm the two heroes. Wonder Woman ended up knocking out Mad Harriet and beating Guillotina to the point where she could not stand up. Meanwhile, after killing Stampa, Big Barda put Lashina out cold with a violent knee kick to the chin. Now, the two powerful women flew to the balcony from where Granny Goodness had been spectating their fight, never having thought that her Furies would lose in such a fashion. Their bladed weapons pointing threateningly at her, they pushed the old woman towards the wall. "Let's not kill her. Better to take her hostage and go to Darkseid's throne room," said Diana. Big Barda did not argue against her suggestion. Wonder Woman sheathed her sword and grabbed her lasso of truth when, all of a sudden, a silhouette appeared between the two of them like a ghost. It was only their reflexes they had honed in battle for centuries that allowed Diana and Barda to react in time and guard against the sudden double kick flying towards their heads. Although Diana had used her bracelets to block, and Big Barda her spear, the two women were still pushed back over a dozen meters each by the strength behind the newcomer's kick. "Naruto! My sweet Naruto! You came to rescue me," said Granny Goodness in a sickly sweet, happy voice. "Don't worry, Granny. As long as I'm here, I won't let any harm come to you." Saying that, Naruto put his hands in a cross seal, and two Shadow Clones popped up next to him. "Is this him? Darkseid's adopted son?" Diana asked Barda as she unsheathed her sword again, her eyes never leaving their opponent. Big Barda's hands tightened on her spear, and her face tensed visibly. "Yes, that's him." As the two clones walked closer to the women, one of them spoke. "Big Barda. So you were the one who led these intruders here, huh? It wasn't enough that you stole a mother box and betrayed father, but you're attacking us now too?" "He's not your father. He had brainwashed you. He's using you like a weapon, just like he did to me," Big Barda said. "Almost word for word the same shit my demon blabs about every day," Naruto laughed. "Well, no matter. I'll make sure to turn this place into your grave. You won't escape from Apocalypse a second time." "Prepare yours," Big Barda tried to warn Wonder Woman, but she couldn't finish her words before Naruto put his hands on the ground and an earth spear burst from the ground behind Barda, impaling her in the back. "Barda!" Diana shouted in worry. Distracted by Barda's predicament, Wonder Woman was caught off guard by the clone who seemed to have teleported in front of her, a football-sized orb of magic spiraling in his hand. "Rasengan!" Wonder Woman was slammed back violently by the Rasengan he had smashed into her stomach, but she quickly righted herself in the air, seemingly not that deeply affected. Her Amazonian armor had extra durability against magic attacks, and Diana herself was extremely tough and durable. On the other side, Big Barda let out a grunt of pain from the rock spear that had smashed into her spine, but fortunately, her Apocalyptian armor prevented that ninjutsu attack from piercing her body. Nonetheless, it had still hurled her into the air, and she was unable to dodge the clone who seemed to teleport above her with a body flicker jutsu, and slammed an Udama Rasengan into her. She could only brace herself and use the handle of her spear to block his attack. Barda! Diana shouted her name again when she saw the clones slamming Big Barda down, the tall woman's body rotating out of control before she crashed into the sandy floor of the arena below, making a big crater in it. As she got slammed into the ground, Big Barda took out a hand grenade from her utility belt and threw it at the clone. Even as she crashed down painfully, she smiled when a terribly loud sound exploded from the grenade. Her smile froze on her face when the clone was actually not dispelled. One of your friends already got the drop on some of my clones with those sound grenades. That won't work on me a second time, said Naruto, amused at her reaction. When Batman destroyed those 2 clones with his sound grenades, the incident was relayed to Naruto and all of his clones, filling them in on what had transpired. Suspecting that the others might have similar weapons at their disposal, Naruto and his clones started protecting their ears with chakra. Forming a sequence of hand seals that ended with Tiger, the blonde inhaled deeply before casting a devastating technique. Katon, Great Fire Annihilation. Oh crap! Big Barda let out a cuss, but Wonder Woman suddenly dropped from the sky in front of her and let out a battle cry as she raised her golden shield. That jutsu technique absolutely obliterated the entirety of the arena, turning reinforced concrete and rocks into liquid fire, and the sandy floor into glass. Even Granny Goodness was awestruck and terrified, never having really witnessed the full extent of Naruto's powers. There was only one spot in the entire arena that remained untouched, crouching lowly behind her shield. Wonder Woman had survived the cataclysmic attack and protected Big Barda too. It looks like I have to get serious with the 2 of you, Naruto said, all amusement disappearing from the tone of his voice as he recognized that the champion of the Amazon wasn't as easy an opponent as he had thought at first. He formed the hand seals of his most familiar technique once again, and 50 more shadow clones appeared on top of the now glassy ground. Grabbing the handle of what appeared to be a bladeless weapon strapped at their waist, the 52 shadow clones surrounded Big Barda and Wonder Woman in a circle from all sides. Standing back to back, the 2 women had a grave look in their eyes when they saw the large group of clones wielding wind, lightning, and fire swords in their hands. What do we do now? Asked Wonder Woman in a quiet voice. We fight until our dying breath, Big Barda said. The former captain of the Furies had no illusions as to what the outcome of this fight was going to be. She had known from the start that invading Apocalypse would be no different from suicide, and she had warned the Justice League about it too. Alas, she was a warrior. The very finest warrior of Apocalypse. No matter the odds, regardless of how desperate the situation appeared to be, there was not a shred of fear or cowardice in her heart. She would fight until the end, taking down as many of those clones as she could with her to the grave. Not long after his clones were destroyed by Batman, and he received their memories, Naruto formed another shadow clone and sent it to the armory again. As far as he knew, his clones had already buried the intruder in concrete, but he did not want to risk letting him go free. What if that man had the ability to teleport or slither out of any bonds? The universe is full of people with all sorts of strange and never-before-seen abilities. Hearing a powerful noise in the distance, he turned his sight towards the palace. Just who is strong enough to give Kara such a hard time? With her Kryptonian strength, she would normally make quick work of most fighters. But he decided to trust her. After all, he had taught her everything he knew. He had faith in her strength. Besides, Father himself is even more powerful than Kara, and I also saw Devilance, Bedlam, and a large group of parademons heading towards the palace to assist them. Bearing that thought in mind, Naruto started thinking of different things. They've already targeted the armory, trying to detonate our hell spores. If they're trying to go for our weak points, then the next logical place they would attack is definitely the power plant. Having decided on his next destination, the real Naruto appeared to turn into a blur as he sped towards the outskirts of the capital city, towards the industrial district. Damn, I hope I'm not too late, he thought when he arrived at the power plant and saw numerous Paranon corpses littering the ground. As the general of Apocalypse, Naruto had been taught and instructed not only how to lead the army and conquer other planets, but also how to defend his home against alien threats. After all, no matter how powerful Apocalypse and Darkseid were, their archenemy, New Genesis, was just as powerful. The possibility of New Genesis armies attacking their capital one day could not be excluded. That being said, he was very familiar with the map of the capital, targets of interest, and other weak points. Therefore, he knew exactly where the control room of the power plant facility was located. He arrived there just in time to see an enormous serpent-like creature coiling around the last 4 surviving parademons in the facility, constricting them to death. That's as far as you go, intruder, Naruto said, taking out his high-tech weapon and making a wind blade come out of its handle. The large serpent untangled itself from the corpses of the parademons, letting them drop to the floor before transforming itself into a green-skinned humanoid person with orange eyes. It was Martian Manhunter. "So you are the mage warrior that Big Barda told us about," said the Martian. "You seem to know a great deal about me. Who are you? And why have you invaded my home?" asked Naruto, narrowing his eyes at him. So far, most of the intruders who had invaded Apocalypse appeared to have a special ability. They were powerful foes. This greenskin alien's shape-shifting ability also had plenty of potential in battle, so Naruto did not let his guard down. Moreover, at the same time, he could not afford to use destructive techniques in that place. He was in the heart of a power plant, in its control room. If he demolished that place, the power plant would go out of control and kill tens of millions of people. Therefore, he would have to keep ninjutsu to a minimum and engage the alien in close-quarters combat. Martian Manhunter was no less cautious than Naruto either. Big Barda did warn us that he can control the 5 elements of nature with his magic, he thought when he saw the wind sword in his hands. Luckily, he can't afford to use any fire spells in this place. Naruto was not aware of the Martian's weakness to fire, but it was true that he had to avoid using fire jutsu indoors in a place as important as the power plant's control room. He watched the green alien intently, and the alien did the same too, neither of them wanting to make the first move. It was the Martian who broke the staring contest first because his friends depended on him shutting down the power plant. If he could cut the power, the enemy would lose all means of controlling and directing the army of parademons, thus easing the burden on the Justice League's shoulders. Watching Martian Manhunter flying at him headfirst with no hesitation, Naruto was inwardly surprised, but he didn't think twice about swinging his wind blade. Only for his eyes to widen in disbelief when his chakra weapon passed through the green alien's body as if he were a ghost. The Martian also phased through Naruto's body and materialized himself behind him before punching him in the back of his head with his entire strength. Caught off guard by his intangibility, the blonde was unable to react in time, and the Martian's strike sent him flying into one of the walls in the back of the room, breaking through it, and through 3 more walls of the adjacent rooms. "Shit, this guy sure packs a punch." The Martian's physical strength was so high that his punch had shattered Naruto's helmet into pieces, revealing his appearance. "He looks like a human male. And a surprisingly young one at that," John's thought when he saw Naruto's face. 5 clones popped next to Naruto, and the 6 of them sped towards the Martian once more. Now that he knew about the alien's ability, he wasn't caught off guard anymore. Outnumbered and attacked with technomagic swords from all sides, the Martian had no choice but to stay intangible. He took out 2 of the sound grenades that Batman had prepared for everyone before they came to Apocalypse and threw them at the clones. "We've seen that trick before already. It won't work on us again." Naruto and his 5 clones spoke at the same time. Eventually, both the Martian and the group of clones came to a stop. "This isn't going anywhere," thought Naruto after trying to cut down the Martian for several minutes with no success. Batman's sound grenades did not work, the Martian also thought, his stoic face beginning to show some signs of distress. He was deeply worried about his teammates. All of a sudden, the wind blades in Naruto and his clones' hands disappeared, only to be replaced in the next moment with lightning blades. Wind doesn't work on him. Then what about lightning? The blonde thought as he lunged at the alien one more time. Martian Manhunter made himself intangible once again, but this time around, when the clone's lightning sword slashed through his ghost-like body, John let out an agonizing yell, screaming at the top of his lungs as the lightning blade coursed through his molecules. 1. Naruto was inwardly relieved to see the Martian collapse on the floor, seemingly unconscious. What the hell was that ability? I've never seen anything like it. He had never faced an opponent as troublesome as that, someone capable of phasing through nearly all of his attacks. Unbeknownst to Naruto, despite collapsing to the floor, Johns had not fallen unconscious. Considering that he was face down, Naruto did not see the way that Martian Manhunter's orange eyes suddenly started glowing with a bright light. One moment later, out of nowhere, Naruto let out a cry of pain and dropped his weapon as he clutched his head with both hands in agony. As he broke into the young man's mind, Martian Manhunter suddenly found himself in a dark, cold, and damp place. The visibility was very low. He could not see much other than the brown, moldy walls of what appeared to be a flooded underground cellar of sorts. "No, it looks more like a sewer," the Martian thought when he noticed the long, seemingly endless pipes running across the walls. He kept walking down the flooded sewer, looking around him cautiously in an effort to anticipate any potential attacks. "I've been inside countless mines before, but I don't remember ever seeing a mindscape as terrible as this one. What could have led to his inner world falling into this state? A light appeared at the end of the corridor, and soon Martian Manhunter arrived in a very tall and wide room, a room so large that he could not see the end of it. However, halfway across the room, two enormous gates, over 60 meters tall, appeared in his view. Martian Manhunter found himself frozen, stupefied at the sight of the massive creature that came out from the darkness beyond the gates. It was a titanic beast like he had never seen before. The water pooling on the floor of the sewer became crimson red as QB's chakra flooded into it, and his deep, demonic voice caused a loud echo in the wide, empty room. "What are you doing here, in my jailer's mind, alien?" As a powerful telepath, Martian Manhunter was very sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions when he put his mind to it. And to his great surprise, he realized that there was no malice in the demon's voice. "I've come to undo Darkseid's control over this young man's mind." QB was no less surprised than the Martian because his negative emotion sensing revealed the fact that the alien was not lying. Unable to contain his curiosity, the fox asked, "Why would you care about that? Hardly anyone has ever cared about Naruto in the past, and those few who did were all killed by Darkseid. What are you after?" "I have no hidden agenda," John said sincerely. "We have come here to rescue Kara Zor-El, the cousin of a dear friend. Big Barda has warned us that Darkseid's adopted son would be our biggest obstacle. My wish is to break Darkseid's control over his mind so that he will stop opposing us. Nothing less, nothing more." Martian Manhunter felt chills going down his spine when QB lowered his enormous head so that he would get a better look at him. "I don't sense any lies from you," QB's voice rumbled thoughtfully. The crimson chakra that had flooded the water pooling on the floor was sucked back into the demon's cell, and Martian Manhunter let out a breath that he did not know he had been holding. "Take that door to your right," QB advised him. "It will lead you to the innermost part of his mind, into his conscience." John glanced at the demon and then at the ceiling tag holding the gates locked. He did not know what the relationship was between the demon and the young man, but he chose not to interfere. Having decided not to hold back anymore and fight his cousin for her own sake, Superman engaged Kara in a fierce battle. With their godlike Kryptonian strength and abilities, their fight devastated Darkseid's royal palace. The entire building was razed to the ground, and massive craters littered the streets nearby. "Give up, Kara. Please. You can't win. I don't want to hurt you any more than this," Superman pleaded with her. His face had many bruises, a trail of blood fell from a corner of his mouth, and his red cloak and blue suit were in tatters. But Kara was not faring any better either. Although Superman had not gone at her with his full strength, the girl was still a mess, her lips busted up and her arms and face filled with bruises. Thanks to Naruto's training, she had developed her combat skills splendidly, but in the end, her cousin proved to be more powerful than her still. As Naruto would say, "As long as I'm drawing breath, I'll never give up," Kara said. She was on all fours, struggling to get up from the crater in the ground where Superman had thrown her. Superman glanced at his cousin with a pained look on his face. He had found he had a blood relative only a few months ago, but he had hardly had any time to enjoy the happiness of knowing that he was not all alone in the world before she was taken away from him. Darkseid had kidnapped her, messed with her mind, and turned her against him. The Man of Steel could not care less about the many injuries littering his body. All he could think about was the pain that he was forced to inflict on Kara in order to subdue her. All of a sudden, a loud roar rang in the distance, and a powerful shockwave exploded, shattering the glass on any windows and vehicles in the capital city. A crimson-red pillar of light shone brightly in the night, piercing towards the sky. "Ha!" Kara let out a chuckle but ended up coughing a mouthful of blood. "You guys are so screwed right now." After saying those words, the girl lost all her strength and fell back to the ground, slipping into unconsciousness. Knowing from the plans and maps that Big Barda has shared with them that the pillar of crimson-red light was coming from the power plant, Superman quickly tried to contact Martian Manhunter. John, are you alright? John. Darn it. It's broken." He could not contact him because his earpiece was destroyed during his fight against Kara. Just as he took the girl in his arms and was about to fly towards the power plant, Martian Manhunter's voice rang in his mind. "Everyone, don't worry about the Pillar of Light. I broke Darkseid's brainwashing over Uzumaki Naruto. He is on our side now, but I suggest we take Kara and leave as soon as we can. He is in an enraged state of mind. There is no telling what he might do." Their armor in tatters and sporting numerous slash and burn marks all over their arms, faces, and legs, Wonder Woman and Big Barda were running on fumes. No matter how many clones they destroyed, others would take their place right away. There was no ending to them, and Batman's sound grenade seemed to have no effect on them either. "This might be the end of the road for us," said Big Barda. "It's been an honor to fight alongside you, Barda," Wonder Woman said calmly. "The honor was all mine," Barda replied. They were fully aware that it was most likely the final moment of their lives, but neither woman appeared to be sad or in despair. They threw themselves at the clones again, fighting with all their might. There was no quitting in them. As a true warrior would, they kept their composure and fought with their entire strength, swinging their weapons until the bitter end. Eventually, Big Barda's spear snapped from the middle, having reached the end of its durability after blocking dozens of wind, fire, and lightning blade attacks. "Barda!" Wonder Woman cried out as she grabbed a shadow clone with her lasso of truth and threw it in front of Barda, using it as a human shield to protect her from the other clones' follow-up attacks. Unfortunately for her, that distraction left her flank open, and a wind blade sliced a deep wound into her side, making her blood gush out like a river. "Diana!" It was Barda's turn to cry out in worry. Falling down to a knee, Wonder Woman was unable to stop the shadow clone who lunged at her next, his lightning sword stabbing towards the back of her neck. However, just as the lightning blade was about to pierce her throat, the clone dispersed into a plume of smoke. And it wasn't just that particular clone. The 50-plus shadow clones who had been surrounding them from all sides were all dispelled at the same time. Even the Naruto whom they had thought to be the real body, the one who was protecting Granny Goodness, also burst into smoke, disappearing. "What the hell happened?" Granny Goodness asked in bewilderment. Diana and Barda were also stunned by the unexpected development. "If I were to guess, something must have happened to the original body," Barda said while getting up to her feet with difficulty. "Was he, perhaps, defeated by Superman?" Diana wondered. No sooner than she said those words, an ear-deafening roar rang and a pillar of crimson-red light split the darkness of the night sky. At the same time, not far from the ruins of the royal palace, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl also froze at the bestial sound reverberating in the night and at the sight of the demonic pillar of red light piercing the sky. The parademons and the new gods, who had been fighting against the two of them, stopped in their tracks as well. The god of evil, Darkseid, who had been spectating the battle impassively with his hands behind his back, was not unaffected either. He flew up in the air, his relaxed countenance from before nowhere to be seen anymore. A grave expression surfaced on his face as he glanced at the crimson-red pillar of light. At that moment, everyone in Apocalypse Royal City felt a bad omen. It was as if they all knew that something terrible was about to happen. Something that should have never been unleashed had snapped out of its chains. Big Barda went to Wonder Woman and helped her up to her feet. "You're bleeding. Can you walk?" The Amazon sheathed her sword and held onto her wound with her hand as she got up, but she shook her head at Barda's question. "Thank you. It's only a flesh wound. We should regroup with the rest." "What should we do with her?" asked Barda as she gestured with her head towards Granny Goodness. Diana didn't have the chance to answer because, at that moment, a crimson-red creature crash-landed onto the balcony where the old woman stood. It had a vaguely humanoid appearance, but its four tails and the way it stood on all fours, like a beast, made one doubt it was human. "Naruto? Is that you?" Granny Goodness said in a sickly sweet voice. "My precious Naruto, you came to rescue your dear Granny, didn't you?" Hearing the old woman's words, Diana unsheathed her sword again, and Big Barda tensed too, taking on a fighting stance. "Is that him?" Diana asked in a quiet voice that only Big Barda, who was next to her, could hear it. "Yes," Barda replied in a whisper. For a few seconds, it looked like Granny Goodness' words had reached him because the creature walked towards her slowly. He was right in front of her now, and the old woman smiled widely, opening her arms as if to hug him. "Great Hera!" Wonder Woman exclaimed in shock, and Big Barda involuntarily looked away. That's because the demon had suddenly shoved its clawed hand into the old woman's chest. "And Naruto?" Granny Goodness said in disbelief as blood burst from her mouth. "Why?" He did not give her an answer. He yanked his arm out, violently ripping her heart out of her chest. Despite the fact that she was dead already, he grabbed her arms and legs and tore them out one by one. He brutalized her corpse, ripping her body apart savagely and trampling on her remains until she was unrecognizable, painting the whole balcony with her blood. "Naruto! Get a hold of yourself!" Kyuubi shouted at him from inside the seal. Another bestial roar came from him. It was as if he was deaf to Kyuubi's words. Despite having just killed Granny Goodness, his rage wasn't abated in the least. A fifth crimson tail grew from his lower back, and the wave of malevolent chakra he let out pulverized the balcony and the rest of the arena, forcing the Amazon to raise her shield and put herself in front of Big Barda to protect her. Another shockwave exploded as he jumped out of the rubble, abruptly breaking the sound barrier. Big Barda raised her hand to activate her earpiece and warn the rest of the Justice League about the Berserk Demon when Martian Manhunter's voice rang in her head. "Everyone, don't worry about the Pillar of Light. I broke Darkseid's brainwashing over Uzumaki Naruto. He is on our side now, but I suggest we take Kara and leave as soon as we can. He is in an enraged state of mind. There is no telling what he might do." Taking his unconscious cousin in his arms, Superman headed towards the previously established rendezvous point once he heard Martian Manhunter's telepathic message. Fortunately, it seemed like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl had done a great job in keeping the large group of parademons and other new gods at bay, stopping them from interfering with his and Kara's fight. As for Darkseid, "It looks like he has far bigger concerns than stopping me now," Superman thought in Schadenfreude when the humanoid, five-tailed demon Fox landed in front of Darkseid with the momentum of an asteroid. It was exceedingly rare for the Man of Steel to rejoice at someone's misfortune, but, after all the things that Darkseid had done to him, the God of Evil was one of the 2 or 3 people for whom he could not feel a shred of sympathy. Not giving them a second look, Superman flew away with Kara, quickly arriving at the meeting point. Hawkgirl and Green Lantern were there already, waiting for him. They had numerous bruises, and their clothes were torn all over, but other than that, they were unharmed. Wonder Woman and Big Barda arrived at that moment too. The Amazon's armor was ripped and stained with blood, but the wound in her side was healing and at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Where's the Flash?" asked Superman. "Batman and John are missing too," said Hawkgirl. "Flash. Flash, do you copy?" John tried calling Flash with his earpiece, but the speedster didn't reply. At that moment, the Martian spoke to them telepathically once again. "Everyone, something terrible happened. The release of magical power from Darkseid's sun had destabilized the power plant. We have to stay behind and evacuate everyone or they're all going to die once the reactor explodes." A moment of silence was instilled before Superman exclaimed, "There are millions of people in this city. We can't possibly evacuate them all in time. Not even Flash could do that. Speaking of, why is he still not here?" "Flash has been knocked unconscious. I have rescued him now," said Martian Manhunter. "As for Batman, he has been trapped. I'm heading towards him as we speak. He is stuck in concrete." "How did he get stuck in concrete?" asked Hawkgirl with a deadpan. "More importantly, what are we going to do about the power plant?" Big Barda asked. "John, would it not be possible for you to contain the reactor's explosion with your power ring?" asked Wonder Woman. "You're talking about containing the explosion of something as powerful, or more powerful than a nuke. My ring may be powerful, but even I can't do something of that magnitude," Green Lantern said with a shake of his head. "I'll do it," said Superman. "I'll stop it." Everyone turned to look at him. "How would you stop a power plant's reactor from exploding?" asked Big Barda. She was not the only one who was confused. The rest were waiting for an explanation too. "I will take the reactor and fly with it into outer space." "Are you serious?" Big Barda said in disbelief before turning to ask the others too, "Is he being serious?" Judging by the look on their faces that Superman was actually serious, she told the Kryptonian in a voice filled with worry. "I know you are strong and durable, Superman. But even someone like you may not survive if that reactor were to explode." "Why, Barda, if I didn't know any better, I'd think you're worried about me," Superman smiled. "Darkseid may be evil, but the millions of people living in this city have no fault. They don't deserve to die. If it's in my power to save them, I will do it." He went to her with Kara in his arms and said, "Will you take care of my cousin until I come back?" Big Barda felt a lump in her neck that prevented her from speaking. She understood then that Superman was ready to put his life on the line for the sake of the people, and nothing she or anyone else said would change his mind. She took the unconscious girl from his arms and nodded solemnly. And with that, Superman was gone. Everyone watched the departing form of the Man of Steel with mixed looks on their faces: admiration, worry, regret, frustration, and shame. God damn it, Green Lantern let out a cuss before he went to Hawkgirl and surprised everyone by taking her in his arms. Hawkgirl stiffened, not having expected him to do that. They may have been in a relationship, But they had agreed to keep it a secret from the rest of their teammates because Jon Stewart did not want to let others know he was dating a teammate. It was unprofessional. Uncaring of what the rest thought of him at that moment, he leaned down and took her lips in a short but loving kiss. "I love you, Shayra." He broke the hug and then turned towards the rest. "It's been an honor." "Jon! Jon!" Hawkgirl cried out, her voice cracking because she understood what he was about to do. Green Lantern looked at Hawkgirl one more time before flying in the direction where Superman had flown, towards the power plant. Unaware of the sacrifice that Superman and Green Lantern had resolved themselves to make, the enraged Naruto crashed like a meteorite into the ruins of the Imperial Palace, right in front of Darkseid. The god of evil was not alone. Heeding his call, all the parademons and new gods who had been fighting Green Lantern and Hawkgirl a while ago left them to their devices and rushed to their god's side. "You are in the heart of my empire. You are surrounded by thousands of my parademons, and many more of my warriors are on their way. What do you hope to accomplish, my son?" Darkseid asked. "Your son? You dare call yourself my father? After all you've done?" The voice that came from the five-tailed demon fox was terrifying. "I gave you more than you could have ever imagined," said Darkseid. "I gave you a home and a place to belong to." "Don't fuck with me!" An enraged scream came from Naruto. "My friends, my sensei, my family, my village! You killed them all!" He was so angry that he was hyperventilating, with white clouds of steam coming from his mouth. His chakra flared, and the thousands of parademons surrounding him all felt as if a huge weight started pressing on their shoulders due to his killing intent. "Now I'll take everything from you. Your empire. Your slaves. Your life. Everything." A sixth tail grew from his back, and a white exoskeleton took form over his limbs, head, and spine. As if the parademons and the rest of the new god's warriors could read Darkseid's mind, as soon as Naruto's words ended, they all lunged at him. Naruto's foxtails increased in size massively, and smashed away entire swathes of parademons and new god fighters, the strength behind them making the vile creatures explode into blood and gore at the contact and hurling the new gods back like broken kites. The god of evil's red eyes glowed and his omega beams burst forth, slamming straight into the cubified Naruto, making him scream in agony, and hurling him back for over 300 meters. "Get a hold of yourself, idiot!" shouted Kyubi. "Don't let your rage cloud your mind. You're a much better fighter than I am. Don't let me take control." Naruto was still rolling over the ground from the strength of the Omega beams when the parademons and the new gods pounced on him like carrion and stabbed their electrified and magic weapons into his head and chest. But none of them could pierce the crimson-red chakra cloak. Electromagnetic murder. With those words, an overpowered lightning nova exploded from Naruto's body, turning the closest 36 parademons into ash and shocking the several hundred others in the distance to death. The new god's warriors didn't fare any better, many of them being either killed, with the tougher ones being knocked unconscious. Seeing that his Omega beams didn't hurt Naruto as much as he had hoped, and that the parademon's attacks couldn't even pierce his crimson cloak of chakras, Darkseid frowned. "Decide, detonate his lightsaber." The sword handle at Naruto's waist, which was covered by the cloak of chakra, started beeping. Naruto had no idea what was about to happen. A massive explosion was detonated with Naruto as the center, generating an immense fireball that lit the night sky like a miniature sun. A mushroom of fire and smoke rose up in the air in a manner reminiscent of a nuclear bomb's explosion. The so-called lightsaber, the techno-magic sword that Darkseid had gifted to Naruto, had been booby-trapped all along, for the situation where he went rogue one day. The shockwave of the intense explosion had yet to fade when Darkseid spoke. "You were my knight, my right hand. You had everything. What was mine was yours. But you chose to kick it away. And for what? Revenge? Where did that lead you? To death." The mushroom cloud was still polluting the air when a silhouette stepped out of it. It was Naruto. The demonic chakra cloak had been stripped away from his body by the explosion, and his clothes were in tatters, looking like rags. But other than that, he was unharmed. "I'm not dead yet, motherfucker." His voice did not sound demonic anymore, and his rage seemed to have subsided, but, for some reason, Darkseid felt a chill going down his spine. The young man's calm made him all the more threatening. Darkseid let out a shout and flew at Naruto with his fist cocked back, punching with his entire strength. The blonde tilted his head to dodge his wild swing and smashed a lightning-release Udama Rasengan into Darkseid's stomach. Blood and spittle came out of the new god's mouth as he got slammed back like a cannonball, screaming in agony as his entire body shook and spasmed uncontrollably. Unfortunately, Naruto couldn't follow up with another attack because Devulance lunged at him out of nowhere and thrust his spear at his chest. The blonde sidestepped his thrusting attack and caught the spear under his right armpit. Then, a fire-release Udama Rasengan took form in his left hand and he slammed it into Devulance's face. The new god didn't even have the chance to scream because that Katan Udama Rasengan blew half of his head off and charred the other half, killing him on the spot. Darkseid was just getting up from the place he had collapsed when he saw a scene that left him petrified. Tajuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Over 200 shadow clones appeared in front of his eyes, and a cloak of red energy enveloped their bodies. They all went through a series of seals that ended with Tiger before speaking in a chorus. Fire release, Great Annihilation Jutsu. The earth and the sky burned. The thousands of parademons and dozens of other new gods who had rushed to Darkseid's aid until then and waited for their chance to attack were all incinerated. Not even their bones or their high-tech apocalyptian armor remained. That hellfire erased everything from existence. It's only the two of us now, Naruto said menacingly and dispelled his shadow clones as he started walking towards Darkseid. On the other side of the capital city of Apocalypse, on the outskirts, Superman looked at the large power plant below him deep in thought, trying to decide how to take out the reactor. A few moments later, his superhuman hearing picked up the sound of someone's heartbeat approaching, and he was surprised to see John Stewart flying toward him. "I'm here to help you," Green Lantern said simply. Superman nodded at him. He did not try to dissuade him. Rio recognized Rio. Ignoring the cataclysmic explosions shaking the skies in the distance from the battle between Darkseid and his adopted son, Green Lantern asked, "How are we doing this? Do we grab the reactor and rush into outer space as fast as we can?" "I don't know what sort of technology they use here on Apocalypse. I'm afraid of what could happen if we disconnected the reactor from the power plant. It could explode on the spot, and then it will have all been for nothing." "So we have to take the entire power plant?" Green Lantern asked, to which Superman nodded. He had seen and done many exceptional things in his tenure as a Green Lantern, but he had never attempted something as big as that by himself. "I understand. I will scoop it out of the ground, and then we'll fly with it together. Just give me a moment," John Stewart said. He closed his eyes, clenching his fist, and brought his ring in front of his face. He steeled his resolve. He was no stranger to risking his life for the sake of others. Even before becoming a Green Lantern, he had been a Marine. This time would be no different. He was a man of duty and honor. Even if he were to perish, he would do his utmost to protect the innocent. He opened his eyes and chanted the hymn of the Green Lantern Corps. "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light." Responding to his willpower, his ring shone with a bright, almost blinding green light, brighter than ever before. The power plant occupied a surface of almost 2 square miles, but the construct of light that John Stewart created with his power ring was even bigger than that. An enormous construct in the shape of a deep spoon buried underneath the facility and scooped it all out of the ground. His superhearing picking up the sound of alarms going off inside the reactor room, Superman was quick to fly under the power plant and take it in his arms. "Leave it to me, John," said Superman. "My tactile telekinesis will hold it all together." Green Lantern had only lifted and held the massive power plant in the air for a few moments, but he was already soaked with sweat. He gladly left it in Superman's capable hands. The Man of Steel appeared like Atlas from the midst as he held a power plant the size of a small hill above his head and flew up with it. Green Lantern's job was not done just yet. He flew up together with Superman and focused his entire willpower on creating the strongest shield of light he had ever conjured around his and Superman's body. He was going to be with Superman and do his best to protect him until the very end. The two heroes' speed increased exponentially, and even Superman started shouting from the strain of fighting against gravity while carrying such an immense weight in his hands. They just barely managed to reach a height of 12 kilometers in the air when Superman said urgently, "It's going to blow up." Before his words ended, Green Lantern flew closer to Superman and brought himself into the same protective bubble as him. Then, the world went white as an explosion stronger than a nuke went off. Together with his shadow clones, he could have ended the fight in a matter of minutes. But he didn't want that. He wanted to kill Darkseid with his own 2 hands. He wanted to take his time and make him suffer. He wanted to make him beg for death. His body was engulfed by a cloak of red energy once more, and outside of his will, his eyes turned red and slit like that of a fox again. Am I supposed to be scared of you? Me? Darkseid? The god of evil said with a scoff and started flying slowly towards Naruto to face him, his eyes glowing with his omega beams. I'll make you regret the day you chose to defy me for the rest of your life, said Darkseid. I won't kill you. I will keep you alive and turn you into my tool. And I will keep your conscience intact just so you can witness the destruction of your homeworld at your own hands. I will make you rape and pillage. I will make you kill whatever is left of your people. You chose this, Naruto. You could have been my knight, my champion, but now you will be my pawn. As he said those words, Darkseid fired 4 pairs of omega beams and lunged at his enemy. Knowing that the omega beams were incredibly hard to dodge due to how they homed in on whatever target Darkseid decided on, Naruto raised an immense, 10-meter thick mud wall. The first 2 pairs of omega beams slammed into the mud wall, making huge craters in it without destroying it completely. But then, Darkseid himself punched his way through the wall with his inhuman strength, much to Naruto's surprise, who appeared to have not seen it coming because Darkseid had fired 4 pairs of omega beams, not just 2. The answer to his dilemma came when the omega beams appeared from behind his back. Darkseid had controlled half of the beams he had fired to circle around instead of taking a straight path through the massive wall. The 2 pairs of omega beams slammed into the blonde's back painfully, launching his body towards Darkseid, who clasped his fists together and smashed them down on Naruto's head like a hammer. A large cloud of dirt and dust was raised in the air as the young man's body was punched down viciously, making a 20-meter wide and 10-meter deep crater into the ground. Or so it had seemed. The blonde's body burst into a cloud of smoke, transforming into a pile of broken boulders. What? How? Darkseid thought in disbelief. It had been a simple kawarimi. The god of evil was still reeling from surprise when Naruto appeared at his back with a body flicker movement. Darkseid's reflexes were nothing to scoff at, and he was quick to turn around, throwing a powerful backhand, but Naruto ducked under his swing and kick-stomped the back of Darkseid's knees. Insect! You dare! Darkseid screamed, and raged at the humiliation of being forced on his knees. His eyes glowed red with his omega beams once again, but another Udama Rasengan collided with the back of his head, smashing him face first into the ground. The Udama Rasengan exploded in the back of his head, and Darkseid's own omega beams blew up in his face due to his head being planted into the ground. The god of evil was still screaming from pain when Naruto grabbed him from one of his legs and slammed him down. Again. And again. And again. He had slammed him into the ground like a ragdoll nearly 10 times, shattering the ground with the strength of his slams. At last, he climbed on top of him and started raining punches and elbows on his face savagely, each one of his hits infused with Kyuubi's chakra, burning and melting Darkseid's face, disfiguring him horribly. Kill him, Naruto! Kyuubi urged him impatiently from inside the seal. You're playing with fire. He's too dangerous. Kill him while you have the chance. But Naruto didn't reply to the fox, too drunk on his bloodlust to listen. Darkseid seemed to have become unresponsive for a few moments, not even attempting to defend himself from Naruto's vicious blows. But out of nowhere, a massive fist slammed into Naruto's jaw like a sledgehammer, hurling him back as if he had been hit by a truck. It was the first solid hit that Darkseid had landed on Naruto, and it was so powerful that it broke his jaw and nearly knocked him out cold. Darkseid stood up from his crater with difficulty, his face a raw, mangled mess of gray skin and purple blood. Nevertheless, his eyes were still intact, and they were burning with more anger than ever. Naruto was in the midst of shaking the cobwebs that were clouding his eyesight when Darkseid's omega beams caught him in full again. He cried out in agonizing pain as the omega beams flayed him alive, melting his skin and flesh. Darkseid breathed out with difficulty through his mouth due to his destroyed nose and grabbed his mother box, which had somehow survived throughout the onslaught of violence Naruto had dished on him, calling out to his most trusted aide. Desad! I've destroyed his mother box with my omega beams. Boom, tube him away. Now! Unfortunately, Desad didn't answer his call. Desad! Desad! Darkseid screamed when he saw Naruto's flayed and melted skin regenerating like a miracle under the effect of the red cloak of energy, and him standing up again like a zombie out of a nightmare. Giving up all pretense, Darkseid left a shockwave behind him as he flew away, desperate to put as much distance between him and Naruto as he could. Alas, he realized how foolish he had been to turn his back to the enemy only when he saw a crimson-red claw burst through his chest. Having gone into his version 2 QB mode once again, Naruto immediately caught the fleeing Darkseid from behind and thrust his clawed hand between his shoulder blades. Simultaneously, a portal opened behind Naruto's back, and a powerful suction force pulled him. Desaad's voice rang from Darkseid's mother box at that moment. "The king is dead. Long live the king!" Darkseid roared in anger, and a great amount of purple-black blood burst from his mouth. "Desaad, you wretched, miserable vermin! You dare betray me? You dare betray Darkseid?" Unfortunately for the god of evil, Naruto's claw had already pulverized his heart. Even he would not be able to survive that. "I will be back. Do you hear me, worm? I will be back and I will give you a fate worse than death. Nobody crosses me and lives. Nobody crosses. Dark Dash." His words were cut off as both he and Naruto were sucked by the boom tube triggered by Desaad and teleported away from Apocalypse. "Flash has been knocked unconscious. I have rescued him now," said Martian Manhunter. "As for Batman, he has been trapped. I'm heading towards him as we speak. He is stuck in concrete." Once he sent that telepathic transmission to the rest of his teammates, the Martian picked the unconscious Flash up from the flooded streets of Apocalypse capital city and flew onto the rooftop of a tall building. "Ugh, what happened?" Flash asked. Being picked up from the water had shaken him awake. "Yuck, I have water even in my pants," he said in disgust when he stood up and realized that his suit was soaked. "From the looks of it, Darkseid's son must have cast a large water spell that washed you away," said the Martian. "Oh, I remember now. Big Barda wasn't kidding about his magic. Sorry, I messed up." He made a pained face, one that could be seen even through the mask covering his head. "Damn, Green Lantern is going to rip me a new one when he hears about it." Green Lantern has bigger problems on his mind right now. He and Superman are on their way to stop a power plant from exploding, Martian Manhunter said. "We should hurry up too. We have to rescue Batman." "Rescue Batman? Are you sure? He's the type who'd rather die than ask for help." "He said he is stuck in concrete." Martian Manhunter and Flash stared at each other for a few seconds. "You're kidding," the speedster said. But when he remembered who he was talking to, he was forced to accept that that was the truth. John Johns never made jokes. "How did that happen? How do you get stuck in concrete?" "He didn't elaborate," the Martian said. "But he gave us his location. He is in the arsenal." "I'll go on ahead," Flash said and turned into a blur as he sped away before the Martian could give his opinion on it. Thanks to Big Barda's intel, all the members of the Justice League knew the layout of the capital of Apocalypse, so it was not difficult for Flash to find the arsenal. He arrived at his destination in the blink of an eye. "I see no robots or automated defense systems," thought the speedster as he blitzed all over the place, searching for Batman. "No parademons either. Looks like they were all attracted by the battle happening at the palace." "Batman? Batman? Where are you?" "Flash. I'm over here," came a voice from a room whose large and thick gates were open just enough for a man to pass through. Flash didn't even consider the possibility that it may be a trap. He didn't care about the fact that the room was covered in darkness either. Worried for Batman's safety, he ran inside at full speed. "Ouch!" he cried out as he stumbled upon something and fell to the ground with a thud, rolling more than 6 times before finally coming to a stop. Simultaneously, a shout of pain came from behind him, followed by a scream of anger. "Arg! Flash, you imbecile!" Flash stood up to his feet and looked behind him in disbelief. The thing that he had stumbled upon wasn't a thing. It was Batman's head. "Oh my god, dude, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you." "How did you not see me? Are you blind?" Batman shouted at him. Hearing their shouts, John Johns also came to check upon them. "Batman, are you alright?" the Martian asked. "Do I look alright to you? I'm buried in the ground up to my neck, and Flash broke my nose," Batman snapped, giving them both his infamous bat glare. A sound like that between a snort and a cough came from Flash at the sight of it. "Are you serious right now? Are you laughing?" Batman shouted at him, incensed. "No, of course not. Why would I laugh?" Flash said, doing his damnedest to keep a straight face. Unfortunately, the sight of Batman buried into the ground up to his neck and him trying to appear fierce as he glared up at them while blood was flowing from his nose was just too funny. Flash, when I get out of here. Despite the situation, or maybe because of it, Batman trying to threaten him while he looked like that was like pouring oil on the fire. As is often the case, the more you are not supposed to laugh in a situation, the harder it is to hold it in. It was the same for Flash now too. He lost it. Wahahoho. Do you hear me? I'll make you wish you were. Flash was on the ground now, on all fours, beating the floor with his fist. I'm so sorry. Ahahaha. Please. Please stop. Ha. Does this look funny to you? Huh. Batman shouted, but his scowl and his otherwise growl-like voice sounding like he had a cold and a clogged nose were too hilarious. Tell him to stop. Please. I can't. Ha. Flash begged the Martian while holding onto his sides, crying with laughter. For the first time since they met him, the Martian also looked like he was having trouble staying serious. His face morphed into that of several different alien species until he settled for that of a bug-like creature, one that did not have the ability to make any facial expressions. Alas, his little disguise wasn't fooling anyone. The rocking of his body and the noises he was making were a dead giveaway that John was laughing his ass off too. Ahem. Flash. This is not the time, Martian Manhunter coughed into his fist and said. Come, let us dig Batman out. While Flash and Martian Manhunter were having a rather light-hearted moment, things could not be any more different on the other side of the capital city, at the Royal Palace. Uzumaki Naruto and Darkseid were locked in a life-and-death battle. Decide! Decide! Darkseid screamed when he saw Naruto's flayed and melted skin regenerating like a miracle under the effect of the red cloak of energy, and him standing up again like a zombie out of a nightmare. Giving up all pretense, Darkseid left a shockwave behind him as he flew away, desperate to put as much distance between him and Naruto as he could. Alas, he realized how foolish he had been to turn his back to the enemy only when he saw a crimson-red claw burst through his chest. Having gone into his version 2 QB mode once again, Naruto immediately caught the fleeing Darkseid from behind and thrust his clawed hand between his shoulder blades. Simultaneously, a portal opened behind Naruto's back, and a powerful suction force pulled him in. Desaad's voice rang from Darkseid's mother box at that moment. The king is dead. Long live the king! Darkseid roared in anger, and a great amount of purple-black blood burst from his mouth. Desaad, you wretched, miserable vermin! You dare betray me? You dare betray Darkseid? Unfortunately for the god of evil, Naruto's claw had already pulverized his heart. Even he would not be able to survive that. I will be back. Do you hear me, worm? I will be back, and I will give you a fate worse than death. Nobody crosses me and lives. Nobody crosses. Dark Dash. Despite feeling the boom tube sucking him in, Naruto could not bring himself to care. With his clawed hand shoved into Darkseid's chest, he pulled the new god together with him into the abyss. As they were sucked into the portal, the scenery changed from the pits of fumes and fire of apocalypse to the vast, dark, absolute cold and emptiness of outer space. Darkseid screamed something at Naruto, but sounds do not travel in space. Nothing could be heard. Rage, hatred, bloodthirst, malevolence. Many negative emotions were rolling off from Darkseid like a volcano. Although he was on the brink of death, Darkseid was not content with going down quietly. Naruto may have plunged his arm into his chest, but that also meant that the slippery shinobi could not dodge his Omega beams anymore. The god of evil's eyes glowed red with his Omega beams one last time, and the deathly rays curved in the air and flew back, hitting Naruto in the back. But the blonde had anticipated that Darkseid would do his utmost to drag him to death together with him, so he had been on his guard. The four tails of his version 2 QB mode spread out to cover his head and back, tanking the Omega beams. Simultaneously, while his clawed hand was still in Darkseid's chest, a sphere of dark purple light took form in front of Naruto's mouth. His entire jaw cracked, splitting open half of his face when he opened his mouth far wider than a human should have been capable of in order to swallow that sphere of chakra. For an instant, his body swelled like a balloon, and a massive blast exploded from his mouth. It was a ray of pure destruction. Had he been at full strength, his god energy might have preserved Darkseid and allowed him to block that Bijudama. But his heart had been gored out. He was already with one foot in the grave. The blast obliterated his head and upper torso, reducing them